Chapter 337. Only to see three figures approaching at an extremely fast speed. In just a blink of an eye, they were already standing next to Yiqing Luo. These three people were dressed in red robes, and their heads were covered tightly, only revealing a pair of penetrating eyes. "There's help!" A student cried out in shock. Yun Xiang was restraining Shi Ju when he heard this cry as he looked over with rapt attention. He saw another three intruders by Yiqing Luo's side. His heart suddenly trembled as he was overwhelmed with shock. The entrance to the heavenly training forest had always been sealed. Only today was the entrance opened, and he had been guarding the entrance. If anyone were to barge in, he would definitely be the first to discover it. How could there be so many intruders? Quickly take down these 4 people. When we return, the elder quarters will send people to search the entire training forest and catch all the intruders. Yun Xiang's face was gloomy as the moves he struck out became more and more vicious. Yiqing Luo held onto her right arm as her peripheral vision swept past the few people beside her as her pink lips pursed. "What are you guys doing here?" These 3 people were none other than Xiao Jin, Yan Xiao Yi, and Tong Ziqing. When she saw Tong Ziqing, Yiqing Luo was slightly astonished. "Didn't you say that we need to nurture our team consciousness? We're a team, aren't we?" Xiao Jin smiled as his tone was calm. She did say that, but if the elder quarters were to find out, it would implicate the entire devil class. Yan Xiao Yi carefully avoided Yiqing Luo's injured arm as she patted her shoulder. "Don't worry. Even if we suspect the entire academy, the elder quarters will absolutely not think that it's the devil class." "Stop the nonsense. Since you want us to understand what's called a team, why are you so apprehensive? Are you treating us as a team?" Tong Ziqing scoffed coldly. Her gaze towards Yiqing Luo was as unfriendly as usual, but the meaning in her words was obviously that she had listened to what Yiqing Luo said previously, acknowledging Yiqing Luo as her companion. Looking at the 3 people beside her, Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with warmth. Her brows were filled with smiles as she slowly nodded. "Yes, we're a team." Team. These 2 words, Yiqing Luo had thought and recited for 2 lifetimes. Finally today, she could openly say out the word team. In her previous life, as the head of the hidden family, she did not have the right to make friends, nor did she have the right to become companions with anyone. Everything she had should be given to the Yi family. This was the first time someone had treated her as a member of the team. She clenched her fists so tightly that she could no longer feel the pain from the whip wound on her arm. The corners of her lips curled up slightly, and there was a gleam of confidence in the depths of her charming eyes. "Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to any of my companions." Yiqing Luo lowered her voice and shot a glance at the cat-beast young lady who was being guarded by Shengguan Fengyi. "If there's a chance, help me bring that young lady away. As long as we bring her away, we can easily leave this place." Yiqing Qian also knew that her target was to bring that young lady away. It was to prevent her from getting close to the young girl and exhausting her strength. However, with the help of Xiao Jin and the others, as long as they cooperated well, it would be an easy matter to bring the young lady away. The few of them exchanged glances and nodded in understanding. Yiqing Luo's vision returned back to those surrounding students. Her gaze suddenly fell onto the wooden tokens on the students' waists, as her long and narrow eyes were suffused with a trace of treacherous craftiness. She abruptly raised her palm, and a burst of profound qi was unleashed from both her feet. Chapter 338. The branches rustled, and the fallen leaves on the ground were blown away by the strong wind. The shadows of the trees danced, and when the whirlwind blew towards them, those 20 over students felt a chill down their spines. Suddenly, a student cried out in shock, "My wooden token is gone!" "And mine." One after another, the students touched the wooden tokens on their bodies in disbelief. That wooden token represented their points, represented their honor in the class. There was only 1 hour left till the end of the actual combat training. If they lost their wooden tokens now, it meant that their 1 day's hard work and 1 day's blood and sweat had all gone to waste. For students, wooden tokens were gone, and the other students immediately covered their own wooden tokens. After they touched their own wooden tokens, they heaved a sigh of relief. Those 4 students' faces were like frosted eggplants as they held tightly onto their waistbands, searching their entire bodies but couldn't find their wooden tokens. How could this be possible? They had obviously pinned their wooden tokens on their waistbands, waiting for the end of the training to lock in their own results. But if their wooden tokens were snatched away at this critical juncture, they would be eliminated. 1 hour. The eyes of the 4 students slowly landed on the students around them. Those 10 over students who still had their wooden tokens immediately covered their own as they took a few steps away from those 4 students. Are you looking for your wooden tokens? I saw him earlier. He was the one who took advantage of the chaos to steal your wooden tokens. Yi Qing Luo smiled innocently as her charming eyes curved as she pointed towards one of them. That person was stunned as his face flushed red. What nonsense are you sprouting? How could I possibly steal their wooden tokens? Yi Qing Luo shrugged her shoulders. The gazes of all the students were fixated on that person, especially those 4 students who lost their wooden tokens. Their gazes towards that person were filled with suspicion. It's not me. She's slandering us, trying to divide us. However, no matter how that person explained furiously, the students' eyes were filled with unconcealable suspicions. Suddenly, a sweet-sounding and calm voice rang out. Don't be deceived by the intruder. He wants to make us fight among ourselves so that he can seize the opportunity to escape. How dare he show off such a petty trick in front of me? Yi Qing Qian's icy cold eyes stared coldly at Yi Qing Luo as she scoffed. The intruder is already injured. The other 3 are nothing to be afraid of. The students were skeptical. After all, this wooden plaque represented the final results of their training. If he were to be eliminated in the last hour, he would definitely suffer from internal injuries due to anger. Take him down first. If we continue to waste time like this, our wooden token will be in even more danger. One of the students shouted impatiently as he took the lead to raise his weapon and charged towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. He hadn't even taken a few steps when he heard Yi Qing Luo's clear voice leisurely ringing beside his ear. Little brother, there's someone behind trying to steal your wooden token. The student subconsciously turned his head to look behind him. He saw the student whose wooden token had mysteriously disappeared standing behind him. He glared at the student whose wooden token was missing. Before he could explain himself, a gust of wind came slashing down from his palm. You from class 2. I didn't steal your wooden token. How dare you sneak attack me? When this palm landed, the student was so infuriated that he opened up a map. The collaboration between the 2 classes, which had been built up with much difficulty, was once again on the verge of collapse. Everyone looked at the person beside them, feeling that the other party was trying to snatch their wooden tokens. For a moment, suspicions lingered around the students, causing them to be on tenterhooks. Brilliant. Simply brilliant. Xiao Jin's lips twitched a few times. He knew that Yi Qing Luo was black-bellied, but he had never seen such a black-bellied one. Chapter 339. Yi Qing Luo's eyes rose as she added a few hints of ridicule. The human heart was originally selfish, especially for those from high profound class. They were arrogant and had a heart higher than the sky. Other than themselves, they wouldn't believe anyone else. Now that they were grouped together, it was merely to make use of each other, to get what they needed. Yi Qing Luo was just teasing her slightly, knowing that her words could possibly be fake. But they couldn't help but believe her words, because they didn't dare to risk their own honor. What if the students from the other classes really wanted to snatch their wooden tokens? Class 1 and 2 students made a move, and that student from class 1 called out the entire class 2. This instantly caused Class 2 to rebound. Even if Yi Qingqian wanted to suppress the current situation, the seeds of suspicion had already sprouted in both parties' hearts, and there was no way to maintain the peace on the surface. Yi Qingluo shot a glance at the three people beside her as the arc of her eyes became even more enchanting. Yi Qingqian had been paying attention to Yi Qingluo's actions, and on seeing the few of them exchanging glances, her heart suddenly turned cold. Trying to escape from under her nose? Don't even think about it. Yi Qingqian's figure turned illusory as she waved her long whip, like a snake sticking out its scarlet tongue, as it coiled towards the direction of Qiao Jin and the others. A dagger suddenly coiled around that long whip. The long whip quivered as it became taut and straight. On the other end of the long whip, a dagger was coiled around. The one holding the dagger was Yi Qingluo. Her fingers gripped the dagger tightly as she controlled Yi Qingqian's long whip. Both parties were in a deadlock. The aura of an earth-profound realm expert constantly appeared on the whip's body. Wave after wave, through the long whip, through the dagger, striking onto Yi Qingluo's palm, which was holding onto the dagger. That strong, profound qi had already corroded Yi Qingluo's internal organs at an extremely fast speed. Yi Qingqian apparently didn't expect that there was someone who wasn't afraid of death, attempting to withstand her earth-profound realm's qi, to be in a deadlock with her. Qiao Jin's pupils dilated slightly. He naturally understood that Yi Qingluo had already used her own strength to go against an earth-profound realm, which was a huge risk. If she was slightly careless, there was a possibility of being swallowed by the earth-profound realm's qi. If it was him, he would absolutely not be as decisive as Yi Qingluo. Qiao Jin's eyes were filled with determination as he clenched his fists. "Wait for me!" After saying these two words, the gold coin darts in his hand flew out like a fairy, scattering flowers. While the students were dodging the coin darts, his figure became illusory, and he broke through the students' encirclement. "Be careful! Don't let him bring away the injured intruder!" Yi Qingqian cried out in alarm, attempting to remind the high, profound class students. However, the students of the two classes were now suspicious of each other. He was afraid that when he went to stop the trespasser, the other students would seize the opportunity and snatch his wooden token. Yi Qingqian was exasperated as she tried to retract her whip, but the other end of the long whip was held tightly by Yi Qingluo. Her eyes were covered with a layer of ruthlessness. Her slender fingers suddenly spread open, and a ball of earth-profound light enveloped her entire palm. Yi Qingqian brushed her palm against the long whip, completely releasing the prestige of an earth-profound cultivator. For a moment, the entire training forest was engulfed by strong winds and huge waves. Thick and sturdy trees with luxuriant branches and leaves were rustled by the strong winds. The shadows of the trees danced in the wind as the bright moon in the sky shone through the gap which was opened up, scattering fragmented splendor. The ground started to tremble slightly. The surroundings beneath Yi Qingqian's feet started to crack. All the students who were staring vigilantly at the people around them started to shift their gazes onto Yi Qingqian. Chapter 340. Yi Qingluo's eyes sunk as an oppressive feeling gushed up her chest as she felt a fishy sweetness in her throat. She forcefully suppressed that oppressive feeling as the dagger in her hand curled around the long whip once more. Following that, she revolved her profound qi to protect her heart. An earth-profound practitioner's power is too strong. Student, you won't be able to hold on for too long. Let's end the battle quickly. Qiao Jin saw Yi Qingluo's pair of charming eyes as it was masked with a ball of thick black color. His heart tightened as he speedily rushed towards that cat-beast young lady. Just as he was about to stretch out his hand to grab her, a long sword blocked in front of him. Qiao Jin speedily shot out a gold coin dart as it spun a few rounds and struck heavily on the long sword. Shangguan Fangyi's arm felt numb as his brows creased tightly as he looked at Qiao Jin. "You're in the way." Xiao Jin's brows revealed a sliver of impatience, as he wasn't willing to waste time on Shangguanfeng Yi. Yan Zhenfei, who was still recuperating by the side, gripped her twin blades tightly as she tried to block Xiao Jin's path. But a ghostly voice rang beside her ear. "Your opponent is me." Before she could get up, she was pressed against by a slender figure. The sharp dagger was pressed against Yan Zhenfei's fair neck. This voice made Yan Zhenfei's pupils constrict as an inconceivable expression flashed past her eyes. She speedily reacted as her petite body swiftly retreated a few steps as she turned her head to look at the lady who stuck close to her. When she met Yan Xiaoyi's pair of spirited but chilly eyes, she seemed to have sunk into a trance as the twin blades in her hands dropped onto the ground. The two people guarding the cat-beast young lady were subdued. Tong Ziqing speedily waved her long whip as it rolled up the young lady lying on the ground and pulled her into her arms. Following that, the three of them stopped at the same time as they speedily returned to Yiqing Luo's side. Yiqing Qian's expression was gloomy as she had not expected Yiqing Luo to remain unmoved after she released her earth profound stage qi. Instead, she restrained her even more. On seeing that young lady being brought away, she cursed in disappointment. "A bunch of trash!" Her long whip shook as her profound qi turned into waves as it charged towards Yiqing Luo. But she had not expected Yiqing Luo to suddenly let go of her long whip when she was shaking it. "Retreat!" Yiqing Luo took a deep breath, suppressing the sweet fishy feeling in her throat as she opened up her arms, pressing the few people behind her to retreat rapidly. The few of them had just moved when the wave of qi exploded with a loud bang. The place where Yiqing Luo was standing earlier had already turned into a huge black hole. "Shijue." Yiqing Luo shot a glance at the cat-beast young lady in Tong Ziqing's arms and immediately called out. Shiju was currently trapped by Yunxiang, unable to cross Yunxiang to help its master. Its eyes were already scarlet red, losing its patience. Upon hearing Yiqing Luo's call, the scarlet-red beast's eyes blinked as it gave off a low growl. The huge body that was trapped swayed, and its huge back was already arched in an attacking posture. Although Yun Xiang was summoned here later, he understood the current situation. Those people's goal was to save the injured intruders. If this magical beast met up with the intruders would definitely escape. He waved his palms, and an earth-shattering palm wind pressed down. He absolutely could not allow this mirage beast to leave. The raging wind swept past the trees, and that fragmented moonlight swayed. Coupled with Shiju's piercing howl, it seemed extremely strange. Shiju's leopard claws slammed onto the ground as its huge body swiftly leapt up. It didn't hide, but instead it met Yun Xiang's palm qi, charging upwards. Chapter 341. That palm qi brought along the momentum of swallowing the mountains and rivers. But the minute it came into contact with Shiju's teeth, that palm qi which had swept up the fallen leaves and caused the surrounding wind to burst out, stopped abruptly. Shiju's teeth were like a sharp blade. When it opened its mouth, it could bite off all life. Yun Xiang had not expected this low-leveled mirage beast to have such an ability. After it broke through his condensed palm wind, that huge leopard's head was just inches away. Yun Xiang's expression changed greatly as a panic which he had never felt before started to spread from the bottom of his heart. That pair of scarlet-red beast eyes shone with a coquettish brilliance, revealing an impatient, murderous intent. Not waiting for Yun Xiang to react, that huge leopard's claw stepped on his chest. His internal organs seemed to be squeezed by a heavy object. He fell heavily onto the ground as his white long robe was swiftly covered by the scattered leaves and dust. Shiju stepped on Yun Xiang's chest and speedily rushed towards Yiqing Luo, giving off a sharp, low roar. "Well done." Yiqing Luo's pink lips rose under the veil as it floated gently onto Shiju's head. Her vision turned towards the back. "Go up." It was the first time for the three of them to see a mirage beast at such a close distance, even though they knew that this was Yi Qing Luo's contracted war pet. But when they saw that leopard's head, which was bigger than their entire bodies, staring at them with a pair of scarlet red eyes, their calves couldn't help but turn into jelly. Mirage beast grade war pet. That was equivalent to an earth profound realm cultivator's strength. Yi Qing Luo was actually able to contract such a powerful war pet. Quick, make the best use of the time. Yi Qing Luo caressed Shiju's head. Shiju bent its four limbs as it lowered its body, allowing the few of them to climb up. Chao Jin understood that this wasn't the time to be shocked by the mirage beast, as he took the young lady from Tong Ziqing's arms and flipped over onto Shiju's back. Yan Xiaoyi and Tong Ziqing exchanged glances as they swiftly climbed onto Shiju's back. Trying to leave? How could Yi Qing Qian let them leave so easily? The long whip waved over once again as her figure speedily chased up to them. Yi Qing Luo had yet to leap onto Shiju's back when Yi Qing Qian was already nearing. The long whip swept out in an arc, setting off a strong, imposing manner, heading towards Yi Qing Luo's face. Coincidentally, Yan Xiaoyi and Tong Ziqing had sat down properly, and Yi Qing Luo forcefully endured the discomfort in her body as her palm struck the ground fiercely and her figure swiftly soared into the sky, landing stably on Shiju's back. This action caused the veil on Yi Qing Luo's face to be lifted when the few of them sat down. Shiju's figure transformed into a bolt of lightning. In an instant he had already disappeared into the lush forest, disappearing without a trace. The entrance area was in a mess, and many students did not even dare to breathe. The intruder left. With low-level magical beasts as mounts, there was no way they wouldn't be able to catch up to the magical beasts. As for Elder Yunxiang, he was severely injured by the illusionary beast and did not even have the strength to get up. The powerful qi that swept through the entire entrance gradually stopped. The fallen leaves slowly floated to the ground, and Yi Qing Jian, who was originally waving her long whip to chase after him, stood stiffly on the spot. He even forgot to retract his whip. That beautiful face was filled with disbelief. She stared blankly at the direction where Shiju disappeared, as her heart thumped hard and trembled violently. Just now, the moment the veil was lifted, the outline that was vaguely revealed, that slender and fair jaw, rosy pink lips, especially that pair of soul-stealing eyes. Yi Qing Qian's heart seemed to be choked by something. Even her breathing became heavy. That red-robed lady, was she Yi Qing Luo? How could it be possible? How could she have the ability to enter the heavenly training forest? How could she have the ability? Recalling that low-level mirage beast, recalling the scene when Yi Qing Luo sat on the high-level mirage beast's back, her expression instantly turned pale. Chapter 342. Shiju's speed was extremely fast, and in a blink of an eye, it had already brought the few of them out of the secret tunnel. Before they walked out of the secret tunnel, Yi Qing Luo called out to Shiju. They had already left the training forest. Shiju's size and its mirage beast's aura would easily attract the attention of the other experts in the academy. They had to be careful. After Yi Qing Luo and the others got down from Shiju's back, Shiju turned into a palm-sized pet. Yan Xiao stared curiously at that palm-sized Shiju. She couldn't imagine that this was the low-leveled mirage beast which had the size of a thick tree. The current Shiju, which had shrunk, looked like a cat and a dog. Its cuteness was evident. Let's hurry back to the devil class, change our clothes, and deal with it. Yi Qing Luo scanned the surroundings vigilantly. Walking out of the training forest, this was the academy's turf. If the hidden experts in the academy were to find out about their devil class's matter, what happened in the training forest today would definitely implicate the devil class. Your wound must be treated in time. Let's get Lu to take a look at it when we return to the devil class. Yen Xiao looked at the wound on Yi Qing Luo's arm, which had already congealed into a blood scab as her slender brows creased into a bundle. Yi Qing Luo's profound grade wasn't high, but she was on par with an earth-profound realm cultivator. On the surface, she looked fine, but internally, she had suffered a serious internal injury. Qiao Jin single-handedly carried that cat-beast young lady in his arms. "Let's go!" Devil class, Beiming Lu's pharmacy. Yi Qing Luo laid on the bed and her arm had been bandaged. Her face was pale without any color of blood. One look and one knew that her injury wasn't light. Beiming Lu sat by the bedside, and the silver needles in her hands accurately pierced into Yi Qing Luo's various acupoints. Her medical skills were brilliant, and she was confident that she could restore Yi Qing Luo's body back to its original state. But it would take some time. Yi Qing Luo's internal organs were all attacked by Yi Qing Qian's profound qi. She didn't feel any pain when she contended with Yi Qing Qian in the training forest, but the moment she lay down and moved slightly, she felt a heart-wrenching pain. Looking at Yi Qing Luo, who was in so much pain that her forehead was drenched in cold sweat, Beiming Lu sighed softly. "I really don't know what kind of physique you have. Your profound grade isn't high. To compete with an earth-profound grade, cultivator's profound qi. Your internal organs are almost shattered." It was strange. Beiming Lu had never seen anyone with Yi Qing Luo's physique. If it was an ordinary person, even if it was a profound practitioner of the profound realm, forcibly receiving the profound energy released by a profound practitioner of the earth profound realm would result in their internal organs being shattered and becoming a cripple. In the worst-case scenario, they would be devoured by the profound practitioner of the earth profound realm and disappear from this world. However, Yi Qing Luo only suffered an internal injury. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels were intact. It was as if something was protecting her internal organs. Yi Qing Luo's breathing was slightly unstable as Beiming Lu kept pricking her body with needles one after another, causing her body to tremble in pain. "Student Yi, you're too reckless." Looking at Yi Qing Luo biting her lower lip tightly, sweating profusely in pain but trying her best to suppress the pain, Qiao Jin's tightly knitted brows creased into a bundle. He was at the scene and saw everything clearly. Recalling the scene of Yi Qing Luo using the dagger to restrain Yi Qing Qian and competing with profound qi, a chill ran down her spine. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly as she shook her head. "I'm fine." Sure enough, he needed to improve his strength as soon as possible. She needed to find her own profound jade heart as soon as possible. Otherwise, based on her current strength, if she met someone with a higher profound grade, she would be helpless. If it wasn't for the fact that the Azure Dew bracelet had activated its protection mode in time and used the enchantment to protect her internal organs, her injuries would definitely not be just this. Chapter 343. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched as she revealed a faint smile. She could tell that these people were genuinely concerned about her. "I'm really fine. If it wasn't for your help today, I wouldn't be able to bring this lass away so smoothly." Yi Qing Luo's brows were tinged with smiles. We're a team, and today's coordination was extremely good. Qiao Jin and the others saw her smiling so peacefully as an indescribable gloominess gushed out from their hearts. "Student Yi, I hope that in future when you're facing danger, you'll think of us behind you." Tong Ziqing, who was leaning against the door with her arms crossed in front of her chest, putting on a sour face, her icy cold gaze swept past Yi Qing Luo. "We don't have that kind of leisure to be able to rush to your side in time every single time." Seeing Tong Ziqing's obviously concerned but awkward look, Yi Qing Luo laughed softly. "Yes, I won't do it in future." Her charming eyes curved into crescents as she smiled, like a bright crescent moon, radiating brilliance. The others looked at her smile, and that indescribable gloominess in their hearts slowly dissipated. Not knowing when it started, Yi Qing Luo seemed to have become the core in their eyes. Yi Qing Luo had obviously joined Devil Class for merely half a month, but her position in their hearts was the same as Long Yunjan. Perhaps it was because when Yi Qing Luo first entered Devil class, that confident and resolute gaze, using her own ability to speak boldly, had awed them. Or perhaps it was because every single time Yi Qing Luo was able to use her words and her views to convince them. Or perhaps it was because Yi Qing Luo obviously looked cold and indifferent, not someone who liked to meddle in other people's business. But towards all the students in the class, she had never been stingy with her help. Especially today, she faced 20 over high profound class students alone, not panicking in the face of danger. Even after they appeared, in order to ensure their safety, she went against Yi Qing Qian's actions alone. Their hearts were completely shaken. They asked themselves honestly if it was them. Would they really be able to be so resolute? That's right, where's that young lady? The minute she reached Devil class, she was forcefully brought to Bei Ming Lu by Qiao Jin, and that young lady was sent somewhere else. The room next door. Tong Ziqing frowned, and a trace of impatience flashed across her eyes. I didn't expect Student Yi to be so kind. For a girl whom you don't even know, you actually wanted to rescue her from the hands of more than 10 high profound class students. Do you really think that you're a god? Tong Ziqing really couldn't understand why this seemingly cold woman would save someone completely unrelated to her time and time again. Previously, he had helped Denai Rupin, and now he had saved that strange young girl. Furthermore, both of them were extremely troublesome. Could such a kind person really stand firm in this world in the future? She's not an ordinary person. Yi Qing Luo had no intention to tell them in detail about the matters regarding the Beastmen clan. Old Man Song had said that the Beastmen race had already been extinct in the entire Nirvana realm. Even if he said it out loud, these people might not understand, and it might even cause panic. She chose an explanation that everyone could accept. Look at the ears on her head and that black tail. She's not a normal human. Qiao Jin and the others already had doubts in their hearts. This was the first time they had seen a person with a pair of cat ears and a cat tail. This was the reason why Yi Qing Luo chose to save that young lady. Chapter 344. Qiao Jin and the rest didn't say anything else. Bei Ming Lu had already finished her acupuncture and heaved a sigh of relief. Rest for a few days. In less than 5 days, I guarantee you will be back to your previous state. 5 days? Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased as she shook her head slowly. No way, I must go for the freshman training. If I don't go, I'm afraid our actions today will be exposed. In the training forest, when she leapt onto Shiju's back, she seemed to have seen Yi Qing Qian's astonished face. Yi Qing Luo wasn't sure if Yi Qing Qian had recognized her. If she didn't attend the freshman training at this time and stayed in Devil class, based on Yi Qing Qian's character, she would definitely be suspicious. If Yi Qing Qian knew that she was the one who saved the young lady in the training forest, she would then trace it back to Devil class. The current Devil class wasn't strong enough to contend against the entire academy. Long Yunjan must have the same thoughts as her. If the academy knew about Devil class's students' aptitude and forcefully allocated them to the intermediate or low profound classes, and they didn't have the ability to make these students stay, then the gains would not make up for the losses. Before they could confirm, they couldn't take the risk. Just based on your current state, you still want to attend the freshman training? Bei Ming Lu put down the bottles in her hands as she rolled her eyes at Yi Qing Luo. Don't spoil my reputation as the #1 divine doctor. I'm afraid tomorrow Yi Qing Qian will come to the freshman training ground to confirm. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips. She also understood that with her current physical condition, it was impossible for her to complete the freshman training. But if she didn't go, Yi Qing Qian would place the suspicion on her. She couldn't risk the entire Devil class. At most, we'll let Master Goeyu apply for leave from the instructors. Just say that Master Goeyu is training us trash and wants you to be a training example. Yen Xiao clapped her hands fiercely. Right, let's do it this way. This will only make Yi Qing Qian more suspicious. Yi Qing Luo shook her head as she lowered her head to look at the acupuncture point on her chest and gently breathed out, "Is there any way to cover up the whip wound on my arm?" Xiao Jin's expression changed. "Who cares if she has suspicions? We'll deal with it when the situation calls for it. Earlier you said you won't joke with your life. Aren't you playing with your life?" "I know what I'm doing." Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as her lips curled into an extremely shallow arc. "Lu should have a way to make me get off the bed tomorrow." Bai Ming Lu slightly raised her eyebrows. She was extremely confident in her medical skills. "Of course, but it's only limited to getting out of bed. If you participate in the freshman training, even if my ancestor comes back from the dead to heal you, it would still be impossible." Yi Qing Luo nodded slightly. "As long as I can get off the bed and act like a normal person, that's enough." "Move like a normal person." Bai Ming Lu creased her slender brows. "Although your internal organs weren't crushed by Yi Qing Qian's profound qi, but you're more or less injured, and the moment you move, you'll feel pain. It's a little difficult to move like a normal person." "It's nothing." Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards. It was just pain. She could bear with it. In the past, she had endured all kinds of hardships, tiredness, and pain. Even if someone were to take a knife and cut her flesh, she would not make a sound. Chapter 345. Based on Yi Qing Qian's character, if she had any suspicions today, she would definitely not be able to sleep at night. Tomorrow morning, she would be waiting at the training grounds to test if I'm injured. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly as a cold arc flashed past. If I were to go to the training grounds safely and let her see it with her own eyes, it would dispel her suspicions. Then, just like what Xiao Yi said earlier, before the training starts, let Teacher Gui you bring me away in front of her, and everything will fall into place naturally. Yi Qing Qian's character was to only believe what she saw with her own eyes. As long as she could prove that she was not injured and safe in front of Yi Qing Qian. No matter how much suspicions Yi Qing Qian had, she would not be so sure. And Gui Yu's character had always been to do as he pleased, even if it was in front of the instructors. Forcefully bringing her away was a very normal thing. The few of them looked at each other. Yi Qing Luo's method was not impossible. But did Bai Ming Lu really have a way to let Yi Qing Luo act like a normal person tomorrow? "Qing, Madam Qing Luo." A weak voice was heard from the door as Anai Rua Pan stood at the door. "If Yi Qing Qian doesn't believe me, what should we do?" Yi Qing Luo spread out her hands and shrugged. "If she doesn't believe me and wants to test me, I will give a signal for Teacher Guiyu to bring me away in advance. Yi Qing Qian doesn't have the guts to go against Teacher Guiyu." She had already thought of an escape route. Let's follow Student Ye's method. A figure dressed in a blue robe walked in slowly from behind Anai Ruapan. Class monitor. The few of them stood up and greeted Long Yunjan. Long Yunjan nodded his head as his calm gaze fell onto Yi Qing Luo. After some time, he flipped his palm and a jade bottle appeared in his palm. "This is the actual combat training's reward. Congratulations, first place." Although Long Yunjan was congratulating her, but his tone didn't have any undulations. Yi Qing Luo was slightly stunned as she looked at the jade bottle which Long Yunjan passed over. "First place? My points have not changed since the beginning. How could I possibly be first place?" She spent the entire day with Anai Ruapan, and the magical beast points were all used to give Anai Ruapan actual combat experience. Her wooden token had always been 30 points. After that, he barged into the High Profound zone and met the students from the High Profound class. How could he get first place? "You have 106 points in total." Long Yunjan's vision swept past Tong Ziqing, who was leaning against the door with a sour face, and immediately returned to Yi Qing Luo. "This is your reward." 106 points? Oh my god. So many? Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes suddenly flashed, as though she understood something, as she looked straight at Tong Ziqing. You've given all your points to me? Tong Ziqing snorted coldly. 30 points are the initial points. Under your guidance, and Rupin has gained 14 points. Take the remaining points as a gift from me. With that, she turned around with a proud look on her face and left the pharmacy. How willful! What happened to the strong desire to win? Was it really a good idea to give her the first place just like that? Madame Qin Luo, actually vice class monitor, and the rest will rush over to the high profound zone to look for you. It's all thanks to Sister Ziqing. She's actually very concerned about you. And Ruopan looked at Tong Ziqing's departing figure, worried that Yi Qing Luo would get angry, so she hurriedly explained for Tong Ziqing. She originally didn't like Tong Ziqing's character. She only felt that Tong Ziqing was too overbearing, using her power to bully others. Usually the one who led the bullying was Tong Ziqing. Chapter 346. Rupin could no longer hate Tong Ziqing for what she did. From Ruopan's mouth, Yi Qing Luo then found out that Xiao Jin and the others were able to rush over to the high profound class in such a timely manner and specially prepared their red robes and masks, was all thanks to Tong Ziqing. From the moment they entered the heavenly training forest, Tong Ziqing went straight in, looking for magical beasts to accumulate points. It was Rupin's first time in the training forest, so her physique was far from Tong Ziqing's. She could not keep up with Tong Ziqing's pace. He was thoroughly humiliated by Tong Ziqing. Tong Ziqing directly pushed the battered Rupin to the side when they were killing the demonic beasts. She then scolded the wretched Rupin for not being a hindrance, since she was a good-for-nothing. Ruopan's pride was insulted as he left Tong Ziqing and walked back to the entrance to wait for Yi Qing Luo. Following that, under Yi Qing Luo's guidance, they killed magical beasts one after another. While Tong Ziqing was accumulating points, she suddenly discovered that the points on the wooden tablet had mysteriously increased. She felt that it was strange, thinking that there was something wrong with the wooden tablet. To prevent the class leader from accusing her of cheating, Tong Ziqing specifically found Xiao Jin and explained the situation. Xiao Jin guessed that Rupin killed the demonic beasts to accumulate points for her team. Tong Ziqing could not believe that Rupin, who was so useless that she would gasp for breath after running a few steps, could actually kill a demonic beast. His points were still increasing at an average rate. How could this be? Hence, Tong Ziqing, Yan Xiaoyi, and the others followed the location indicated by the wooden token and found Ruopan, who was hugging Yi Qing Luo's uniform and sprinting with all his might. After knowing that Yi Qing Luo had a conflict with the high profound class students, Tong Ziqing immediately rushed over to the high profound zone. I know. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but chuckled after she heard the entire sequence of events. Her existence made Tong Ziqing feel threatened. Since Tong Ziqing had feelings for Long Yunjian, it was only natural that she would target him previously. She knew that Tong Ziqing had wholeheartedly agreed with what she said in the class committee room. It was just that she was unable to lower her pride to ask for peace with Yi Qing Luo. Such a proud and awkward little girl was quite cute. Also, Rupin glanced at Yan Xiaoyi from the corner of her eye. Then she lowered her voice and said, I'm afraid classmate Yan has been recognized too. What do you mean? Ruopan licked her dry lips. High profound class's Yan Jinfei is student Yan's elder sister from the same father and mother. Yan Jinfei's innate talent has been strong since young and was admitted into Heavenly Academy at a young age. In just 1 year, she passed the semi-annual class promotion test and entered High Profound Class 2. Hearing this, Yi Qing Luo roughly understood what Ruopan was trying to express. These students in Devil Class were all trash in the past, and Yan Xiaoyi was no exception. Her talent was not as good as her sister's, and she had been living under her sister's brilliance since she was young. Everyone could only see Yan Zhenfei, but not Yan Xiaoyi. Hearing Ni Ruo Pan's concise and comprehensive description of Yan Xiao Yi and Yan Jinfei's relationship, Yi Qing Luo recalled that she and Yi Qing Qian were once like this. However, her unexpected arrival had changed the fate of this body. But Yan Xiao Yi was different. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she stared at Yan Xiao Yi with interest. She didn't believe that Yan Xiao Yi would obediently live outside of Yan Jinfei's halo. Based on Yan Xiao Yi's character, she would absolutely not allow herself to be at a disadvantage. Behind this halo, it was hard to say who was in charge. Chapter 347. Ever since Ni Ruo Pan entered Devil Class, she had been extremely cautious. To integrate into Devil Class, the first thing was to understand the students in Devil Class. She was most proud of her memory. Because of this, she had memorized the information and hobbies of the people in her class. Towards Yan Xiao Yi, she had some understanding. No worries, it's the end of the month holiday in a few days. By then, I will think of a way to dispel Yan Jinfei's suspicions. Yan Xiao Yi waved her hand indifferently, totally not putting Yan Jinfei in her eyes. When she first came to Devil Class, her motive was to work together with Long Yunjian, to lead the Devil Class until they could contend against the High Profound Class, then participate in the school's competition. Ruthlessly slapping Yan Jinfei's face, ruthlessly stepping on the pride of the Yan family. Even if Yan Jinfei knew in advance. So what if Yan Jinfei recognized her? What could Yan Jinfei do to her? Ah, that's right, it's almost the end of the month. The school will have a 3-day holiday. Bei Ming Lu's eyes lit up. In this case, Student Yi, you can no longer participate in the training. Holiday? Yi Qing Luo then recalled that it was indeed written in the booklet that the school would have a holiday on the last 3 days of every month. No matter if it was a master or a student, they had to leave the school. This was the school's tradition and rule. Yi Qing Luo's eyes sunk as her slender brows creased slightly. A holiday was much more troublesome than staying in the school. In the school, she could still make use of Guiyu to cover up her injury. But if she returned to the Yi family, Yi Qing Qian had borrowed the power of the dark forces and had just advanced to the Earth Profound stage. If she returned to the Yi family, she would not be able to live peacefully. Looked like, after hiding in the school for the past few days, she would have to hide for the 3 days of holiday. With Lu treating you, by the time the holiday arrives, your body should have recovered by 70 to 80%. Qiao Jin leaned by the side as his brows rose slightly. Based on your ability, when you return to Three Springs Sect, Yi Qing Qian won't be able to gain any advantage from you. Bei Ming Lu nodded. If Student Yi cooperates, she will indeed be able to recover by 70 to 80%. Looking at these people, Yi Qing Luo's heart was filled with warmth. Everyone in the Devil Class treats you as one of the team members and is very concerned about you. So, I hope today's incident will not happen again. Long Yunjian, who had been silent, opened his mouth faintly. He stood by the bed, his gaze indifferent and his expression indifferent. Only that pair of rippling blue eyes gazed intently at Yi Qing Luo, revealing some seriousness. Yi Qing Luo met that pair of blue eyes and was slightly stunned. She suddenly recalled that day the conversation between him and Chi, and her heart suddenly trembled. There were so many people in the pharmacy. Yi Qing Luo resisted the urge to ask him about Chi's whereabouts and his relationship with Chi, nodded her head, and responded yes. Today's actual combat training, you were almost discovered by the High Profound class and caused such a huge commotion. It's your fault. After you recover from your injuries, you will be responsible for the cleanliness of the Devil Class for 7 days as a warning to others. Class Monitor. Qiao Jin opened his mouth, trying to plead for Yi Qing Luo. Long Yunjian casually glanced at Qiao Jin. His expressionless face and eyes were as calm as water, adding a bit of indifference to his whole person. Qiao Jin immediately fell silent. This is indeed my fault. I am willing to accept the punishment. When she did the action of going out to save the young lady, Yi Qingluo had already guessed that this action of hers had already violated the devil class's rules. Long Yunjan's punishment wasn't considered heavy, and it was only on the surface, to warn the other students. Long Yunjan didn't say a word, as he remained silent as when he came, as he calmly turned around and left the pharmacy. Yi Qingluo's eyes widened as she stared at Long Yunjan's back view. He wasn't going to tell her where Chi was. Chapter 348. That night, in order to prevent Yi Qingqian from hesitating and purposely waiting for her in the dormitory to see if she was injured, Yi Qingluo got off the bed after pulling out the silver needles. Just like what Bei Ming Lulu had said, the moment she moved, her internal organs would be affected and there would be bursts of throbbing pain. Yi Qingluo endured the pain and wore her uniform neatly. After looking at her in the mirror for a while, apart from her pale complexion, she didn't seem to be out of the ordinary. Holding the painkillers that Bei Ming Lulu had prescribed for her, she had just walked out of the devil class when she saw Lu Xiaoyu standing at the entrance of the devil class, waiting anxiously for her. Qingluo. Lu Xiaoyu saw her and immediately went forward. Her eyes were filled with worry as she stared at Yi Qingluo from head to toe. She wanted to support Yi Qingluo, but didn't dare to touch her. Vice class monitor asked you to come over. One look at Lu Xiaoyu's expression, and she knew that she was specially waiting for her. Lu Xiaoyu nodded. Her bright eyes were already filled with tears. He said you had suffered a serious internal injury, but he can't let the other students know. So he asked me to fetch you. Qiao Jin was considerate. Her current condition indeed made it impossible for her to return to the dormitory normally. With Lu Xiaoyu around, at least she had the strength to support herself. Yi Qingluo didn't say what had happened, so Lu Xiaoyu naturally wouldn't ask. Lu Xiaoyu was an intelligent girl and knew the reason why Qiao Jin specially asked her to fetch Yi Qingluo. She was like usual, holding Yi Qingluo's arm with one hand, her face revealing the same smile as usual. In fact, Lu Xiaoyu's position could support most of Yi Qingluo's strength. On the way back to the dormitory, Lu Xiaoyu kept on chattering about the intermediate profound class, talking about the things that the masters had taught her recently. Yi Qingluo occasionally responded. From Yi Qingluo's increasingly heavy body, Lu Xiaoyu could feel that Yi Qingluo's body couldn't take it anymore. Finally returning to the dormitory, she had just opened the door when she saw Lu Shuiyu sitting there asking around, her eyes staring straight at Yi Qingluo. Lu Xiaoyu's expression congealed as she slightly straightened her back, giving Yi Qingluo a strong support. Qingluo, the instructor, said that today's training will add a new exercise. Let's rest early today. Lu Xiaoyu said as she held her arm and only released her when they reached Yi Qingluo's door. Behind him, Lu Shuiyu sneered. Why does it look like student Yi is struggling to walk? Yi Qingluo's heart trembled fiercely. As expected, Yi Qingqian recognized her. When she leapt onto Shiju's back, half of her veil was lifted by Yi Qingqian's whip, allowing Yi Qingqian to see it. But she didn't expect that Lu Shuiyu would still be in contact with Yi Qingqian after the violation of the academy's rules, and even came to test her on behalf of Yi Qingqian. Yi Qingluo chuckled lightly as she glanced sideways and sneered. If the former vice president has the time to pay attention to me, why don't you think about how to get back your position? If you lose the faculty council member status, you won't be able to see your dear president anymore. Yi Qingluo chuckled. With just a few words, he poked at the sore spot in Lu Shuiyu's heart. You. Lu Shuiyu slammed the table and stood up. Her cold and elegant face immediately showed anger. However, Yi Qingluo didn't bother about her as she opened the door and walked into the room. Chapter 349. Yi Qingluo had just closed the room door, and that forcefully supporting body leaned against the door as she panted heavily. But when she smelled that familiar sandalwood scent in the room, she was completely stunned. She immediately raised her eyes and saw a tall figure standing in the middle of the room. He was dressed in a purple robe, and the ink was loose on his shoulders. That peerless talent, usually filled with smiles whenever he saw her, was expressionless. That pair of gleaming peach blossom eyes were sinister and treacherous, revealing a few hints of danger. This gaze made one's back go cold. Yi-Ching Luo's body suddenly tensed up. She had never seen this expression from Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian had never revealed such an expression in front of her before. Her heart trembled fiercely. Dmo Xian knew what happened to her today. Yi-Ching Luo took a deep breath, suppressing the intense beating of her heart. She had just opened her mouth to speak a word when she softened her tone. Xian. Dmo Xian wasn't like usual. When he heard Yi-Ching Luo's intimate call, he beamed with joy as he went forward to embrace her into his arms. He stood on the same spot, filled with viciousness, his thin lips pulled, forming a frosty arc. Lil Luo really enjoyed herself today, so much that you can't even stand properly now. That voice seemed to be wrapped in frost, making one shudder. Yi-Ching Luo was in the wrong. She had caused herself to be seriously injured, making Dmo Xian worried it was her fault. Seeing Dmo Xian's viciousness getting thicker, Yi-Ching Luo's pink lips pouted. Her eyes were stained with tears as she looked at Dmo Xian pitifully. Her voice was sweet and coquettish. Xian, I'm in pain. That tone was one which Yi-Ching Luo had never used before. It was a little aggrieved, a little choked. Oh, you also know pain? Dmo Xian's obsidian-like destructive eyes was biting cold as he sneered. Yi-Ching Luo bit her lower lip as her eyelashes were stained with tears. I'm in pain, so in pain. I need Xian's kiss and hug to stop the pain. This method of acting coquettishly was unparalleled. Dmo Xian's face, which seemed to be sealed in ice, started to show some cracks. Yi-Ching Luo had been paying close attention to Dmo Xian's expression, and seeing that acting coquettishly worked, she might as well throw away her moral integrity and coquettishly said, Xian, I'm in so much pain that I don't have any energy. Carry me. Dmo Xian's face was still cold, but he still walked over and hugged Yi-Ching Luo's waist in his arms. His movements were fast but extremely light. Yi-Ching Luo almost didn't feel the pain from her body when she fell into the man's arms. That elegant sandalwood fragrance lingered around her nose, and Yi-Ching Luo's heart, which had been hanging in suspense, gradually calmed down. Dmo Xian carried her all the way to the bedside. Just as he was about to put her down, Yi-Ching Luo's slender fingers suddenly grabbed onto his robe. That uninjured arm circled around Dmo Xian's neck, encircling him. The girl's sweet and exquisite face came close to Dmo Xian's eyes. With the fragrance of a young lady, Yi-Ching Luo's pink lips pressed onto Dmo Xian's. Her actions were a little careful, but also a little fawning. After a peck, Yi-Ching Luo moved her lips away as she buried her head into the man's chest. Xian, I didn't intentionally let myself get hurt. My plan was to coordinate with Shiju to save that young lady without any harm at all, but I'd not expected Yi-Ching Luo to have broken through to Earth's profound grade. Dmo Xian didn't say a word, and towards Yi-Ching Luo's kiss, he didn't turn passivity into initiative like in the past. It could be seen how angry he was right now. Chapter 350. After acting coquettishly, she also fawned on her. Yi-Ching Luo felt that she had already thrown away her moral integrity. That young lady was from the Nirvana realm's secret beast race. Saving her might allow her to form a contract with her to open up her bloodline. If the young lady wasn't willing to form a contract with her, then she would have another beast race friend. To Yi-Ching Luo, there were only benefits and no disadvantages. Under such circumstances, she would naturally be fully prepared before she stepped forward to save her. Initially, when she took a liking to Shiju, what attracted her the most was Shiju's speed. If she wasn't able to save her and the situation changed, she could totally ride on Shiju and leave swiftly. Furthermore, she had the secret art of teleportation on her. If she sensed that something was amiss, she would be able to protect herself by displaying her teleportation. Because of this, she dared to use her own strength to go against 10 over high profound class students. But no matter how she calculated, she hadn't calculated that Yi Qingqian had broken through to Earth profound realm, nor had she calculated that Xiao Jin and the rest would rush over to help her. Escape route? This is your escape route. Mo Xian scoffed lightly as his fingers suddenly moved and easily undid Yi Qing Luo's waist seal. Yi Qing Luo's petite body stiffened. His fingers parted her uniform, his fingertips faintly brushing against her skin, causing her to shudder. Yi Qing Luo's breathing suddenly stopped, not understanding what Mo Xian's actions meant. Yi Qing Luo's clothes were already half opened, revealing the fair skin on her left shoulder. Mo Xian's fingers slid down and revealed her entire arm. Her arm was wrapped with a layer of medicinal powder, but it still couldn't hide the blood scab from the whip, which was extremely conspicuous. Mo Xian's peach blossom eyes squinted slightly as his fingers suddenly pressed on her wound. Hiss! Yi Qing Luo sucked in a breath of cold air in pain as her body kept on shrinking backwards. That finger which was pressing on the wound, on hearing her cries of pain, couldn't bear to loosen his strength. Immediately after, a cool feeling was emitted from Mo Xian's fingertips. That cool feeling, after it had passed through the wound, the pain from Mo Xian's pressure disappeared. Ah, Xian! Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes guiltily as she softly called out Mo Xian's name. I'm sorry, I know you're angry with me. I promise there won't be a next time, all right? Mo Xian remained silent as he calmly took out a jade bottle from his netherworld dragon ring and changed her dressing. His expression was ice cold and his eyebrows were calm. However, his actions were extremely gentle, as though Yi Qing Luo was his treasure. He held it in his mouth, afraid that it would melt, and held it in his palm, afraid that it would fall. His cautiousness made Yi Qing Luo's eyes suddenly warm up as her nose turned sour. In front of others, she was confident, insolent, and arrogant. Only in front of Mo Xian, she was like a little woman. Even if a knife was pressed against her neck, she would not show the slightest bit of fear or the feeling of wanting to cry. But this man gently helped her apply medicine, which made her so touched that she wanted to cry. Even more than that, she was filled with guilt. I know, the current me is no longer alone. Devil class's companions are very important, but you are even more important. Yi Qing Luo's curly long lashes fluttered as she gazed deeply at the handsome face which was just inches away from her. I've made you worried, I'm sorry. The wound on her shoulder had been bandaged again. Bursts of cool feeling drowned out that pain. Mo Xian's slender fingers hooked onto Yi Qing Luo's clothes as he gently and slowly helped her put on. Chapter 351. Mo Xian's voice was filled with suppressed pain. He stretched out his hand and hugged Yi Qing Luo's petite body. Light and slow, incomparably gentle. He didn't dare to use force, afraid that if he did, the person in his arms would be in pain. Slowly embracing Yi Qing Luo into his arms, Mo Xian's head buried in her neck. The man's warm breath sprayed on her skin, like a ball of fire burning her. Perhaps it was because his action was very light, or perhaps it was the effect of the medicine he applied. Yi Qing Luo totally didn't feel any pain. Even the internal injuries suffered in her internal organs didn't cause any pain because of the slight movement of her body. I'm angry at myself. Will let you get hurt. The man's voice in her neck was very low, indistinctly a little unclear. But it wasn't hard to hear his tone vaguely. I should protect you. Should protect you completely. His words, word by word, were like a warm current flowing into Yi Qing Luo's heart. Her brows overflowed with some tenderness, Her charming eyes were filled with warmth. "It's not your fault. Don't blame yourself. I will feel terrible." Dmo Xian's head slowly lifted up from her neck. That pair of glistening peach blossom eyes reflected Yi Qing Luo's face. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled up, smiling like a flower. Exquisite, peerless looks at this moment seemed to cover up all the beauty in the world. For pairs of eyes met, there was only each other in their eyes. "I know you care about me, and want to protect me forever." Yi Qing Luo's voice was as gentle as a feather, yet filled with seriousness and determination. "But, Xian, I want to grow, want to become someone who can stand by your side, who can protect you. I'm not a woman who hides under a man's wings, relying on a man to survive. I don't want to not only be protected by you, I also want to protect you." Love was not a matter of one person, but a matter of two people. It was originally mutual equality. Stick to each other, protect each other. Dmo Xian was strong, but it didn't mean that she only needed to enjoy Dmo Xian's strength to contribute for her. What she wanted to do was to stand by Dmo Xian's side, like how he protected her, to protect her. Dmo Xian wasn't willing to see her get hurt and fall into danger. Was she willing to see Dmo Xian fall into danger for her? This time, I was careless and overconfident. I admit my mistake. Yi Qing Luo stretched out her uninjured hand, and her fair palm caressed Dmo Xian's face. "My Xian dotes on me, cares about me, and will absolutely not stop me from growing up, right?" The woman's eyes were resolute, and the expression on her face was not as cold and proud as before. Instead, it was like a pool of warm water, gently wrapping around Dmo Xian's heart. Dmo Xian's heart was violently shaken. These words, Yi Qing Luo had told him before. However, each time he was shaken in a different way. This was the woman he fancied, the most unique woman in this world. He had always been at the top, respected and feared by tens of thousands. But only Yi Qing Luo didn't care about his identity, didn't care about his power, and only treated him as an ordinary man. She would not ask for his protection, nor would she hide behind his back. She would take things as they came and enjoy a lifetime of peace. She said that she wanted to walk side by side with him to protect him. This was the first time someone said that she wanted to protect him, and it was a woman. Dmo Xian could deeply feel that Yi Qing Luo treasured him. Chapter 352. Yi Qing Luo smiled, her charming eyes curved, filled with infinite affection. The man's pale thin lips, with a trace of elegant sandalwood fragrance, lightly imprinted on her forehead. That sandalwood fragrance blurred Yi Qing Luo's eyes. She only felt her eyelids heavy and fell into a deep sleep. The next day, she was awakened by Lu Xiaoyu's knocking on the door. Opening her eyes, the room was quiet. Only the sandalwood fragrance in the air proved Dmo Xian's existence last night. Yi Qing Luo blinked her sleepy eyes, propped up her arm, and got up. She then realized in shock that she was not as unbearably painful as she had imagined. The wound on her arm had been changed and bandaged. A burst of cool feeling stopped all the pain. She raised her hand and covered her chest. The profound jade heart at her heart was emitting warmth. Her entire internal organs were enveloped by that warmth. Although her body was not as relaxed as before, but moving like a normal person, there was no problem. Yi Qing Luo's eyes suddenly lit up, her face overflowing with a smile. Dmo Xian he actually considered so thoroughly for her. Knowing that he was unable to change her decision and unable to see her endure the pain, he used his own way to protect her. The profound jade heart injected his energy during this period of time, was able to relieve the pain on the body. Compared to Bei Ming Lu's medicinal pills, it was much more effective. Yi Qing Luo came out of the room. The corners of her mouth hung an unconcealable smile. Lu Xiaoyu lightly knocked on the door, her face trying her best to pretend to be calm. But that smear of anxiety in her eyes collided into Yi Qing Luo's eyes. Seeing Yi Qing Luo come out, Lu Xiaoyu heaved a sigh of relief. Without leaving a trace, she sized her up. "Training is about to be late, let's go quickly." Yi Qing Luo nodded lightly, raised her eyes to see Lu Shuiyu still sitting in the hall, staring at her with a gloomy face. Still not dispelled the intention to test her? No wonder Lu Xiaoyu was so worried that she couldn't wait to directly barge into Yi Qing Luo's room, but was afraid that her worry would let Lu Shuiyu know that Yi Qing Luo was injured. So she forcibly endured it. "Let's go." Yi Qing Luo directly ignored Lu Shuiyu, stretched out her arm and directly held onto Lu Xiaoyu's shoulder as they walked towards the dormitory's entrance. When the two of them walked out of the door, Lu Shuiyu suddenly stood up and chased after them. She stared maliciously at Yi Qing Luo's back view, her delicate brows tightly knitted into a bundle. "Lu Shui, you had also heard about the intruders in the training forest." Yi Qing Jian had specially told her that one of the intruders looked extremely similar to Yi Qing Luo. If that intruder was Yi Qing Luo, the current Yi Qing Luo should have suffered from an extremely serious internal injury, and without 10 days to half a month's rest, it was impossible for her to move. Last night, when he saw Yi Qing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu returning intimately, looking at Yi Qing Luo's state, it was indeed a little strange. But now Yi Qing Luo was no different from usual, which one of her looked like someone who was seriously injured. Lu Shuiyu's eyebrows furrowed, her cold and elegant face twisted into a sinister expression. She clenched her fists, gritted her teeth, and followed him out of the dormitory, walking in the direction of the freshman training ground. Indeed, as Yi Qing Luo had expected, they had just reached the training ground when they saw Yi Qing Jian, who was surrounded by everyone, standing at the entrance. Her usual gentle gaze was now filled with seriousness, sizing up the freshman. "See that? That's Three Springs Sec's eldest young miss, the #1 beauty in Three Springs City, Yi Qing Jian. I heard that she had broken through to Earth Profound Realm during the actual combat training in High Profound class yesterday. Earth Profound? So powerful. No wonder she's a student from High Profound class." Chapter 353. Voices of discussion rose and fell in succession in the entire training ground. This other world had always believed in the rule of the strong. In the eyes of these freshmen, the High Profound class was a godlike existence, especially when they heard that Yi Qing Qian had broken through to the Earth Profound stage in the actual combat training. All the freshmen' gazes towards Yi Qing Qian had turned into worship and ecstasy. Yi Qing Luo understood Yi Qing Qian's motive for coming here, but she pretended not to see her as she held Lu Xiaoyu and walked directly into the freshman training grounds. "Yi Qing Luo." Yi Qing Qian's eyes sunk as she called out to Yi Qing Luo coldly. Yi Qing Luo ignored her as though she didn't hear anything. This action infuriated Yi Qing Qian. Yesterday, after she realized that the intruder was Yi Qing Luo, she couldn't sleep at all. She specially asked Yi Qing Luo's dormitory mate Lu Shuiyu to probe, but she didn't expect Lu Shuiyu to totally ignore her. For the entire night, Yi Qing Qian's eyes seemed to be floating in the training forest. The red-robed lady's veil, which was lifted, and the outline, which was vaguely revealed, kept overlapping with Yi Qing Luo's face, tormented her for the entire night. Yi Qing Qian had been waiting here for Yi Qing Luo since early in the morning. Only by probing herself would she be able to ascertain if that red-robed lady was Yi Qing Luo or not. The current her was feeling vexed as she suppressed her anger, especially when she saw Yi Qing Luo, who had tormented her for the entire night. This anger surged uncontrollably into her heart. Yi Qing Qian shot a glance to the side. Following her were Shang Guanfengyi and Yan Jinfei. Yesterday, they had suffered such a huge loss in the hands of the intruder. If they were able to ascertain that Yi Qing Luo was the intruder, they would absolutely not let her off easily. The two of them swiftly went up and blocked Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's slender eyes narrowed as her red lips curled into an enchanting cold arc. A good dog doesn't block the way. Scram to one side. The minute she opened her mouth, she wasn't courteous at all. Yi Qing Luo scoffed lightly as she raised her hand to slap the arm which was placed horizontally in front of her. Shangguan Fang, he didn't expect Yi Qing Luo to make a move as he suddenly withdrew his hand. But no matter how fast his reaction was, he wasn't able to match Yi Qing Luo's speed. Yi Qing Luo's hand looked like a casual slap, but her fingertips were extremely sharp. A gash appeared on his sleeve. It wasn't a big cut, but this action was like a vicious slap to Shangguan Fang's face. That rather handsome face instantly turned gloomy. Yi Qing Luo! You dare to make a move in front of so many students. Are you trying to violate the Academy's rules? Violate the Academy's regulations? Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes curved as she couldn't help but laugh out. Which eye of yours saw me making a move? You blocked my way without any explanation. Should I also say that you attacked me? Shangguan Fang's words were blocked, and his face turned red. His tightly clenched fists were already bulging with veins as he forcefully suppressed his rage. Seventh sister. Yi Qing Qian slowly walked towards her, the corners of her lips curled up into a faint smile as she spoke in a gentle tone. Eldest sister has something to ask you. Her expression was gentle, her smile was gentle, and her tone was gentle. However, the cold, probing, and scrutinizing look in his eyes was extremely obvious. Yi Qing Qian's brows creased slightly as she secretly had some doubts in her heart. Yesterday, she had used 100% of her strength, completely charging her earth profound qi into the intruder's body. That intruder's profound grade was absolutely not high, so there was no way he could defend against her profound qi attack. Even if in the end the intruder rode on the Mirage Beast and escaped from the training forest. But that intruder would absolutely suffer an extremely serious internal injury, and without lying in bed for 10 days to half a month, he would definitely not be able to climb up. Chapter 354. Yi Qing Qian's brows creased slightly as her beautiful eyes stared at Yi Qing Luo's hand. Yesterday, she had lashed the trespasser's arm with her whip. She could clearly see that the intruder's arm had been whipped till the flesh split open, as fresh blood flowed out. With the profound qi of the earth profound realm, ordinary people would probably be crippled if they received that whip. Even if that intruder was not an ordinary person, after receiving that whip and her profound qi attacking her internal organs, that arm would be crippled if not crippled. But Yi Qing Luo raised her hand to slap away Shangguan Fang's hand, which was coincidentally injured by her whip. Could it be that the intruder was really not Yi Qing Luo? I heard that eldest sister has already broken through to the profound earth realm. You're indeed the pride of the Yi family. Yi Qing Luo's eyes opened into a long arc as she revealed a teasing smile, as she blinked her eyes innocently. A few days ago, eldest sister was punished to wash the latrine for 3 days. This punishment actually helped eldest sister to break through to the profound earth realm. Looks like eldest sister and the latrine are fated. Yi Qing Qian's smiling face instantly darkened. Her stomach started to roll. Yi Qing Luo seemed as though she didn't see Yi Qing Qian's expression as she giggled. It's the Academy's holidays in a few days. Why not hand the Yi family's latrine over to eldest sister to clean? Perhaps the next time we meet, eldest sister will become a sky mystic overlord cultivator. Her tone was coquettish, sweet with a hint of a young lady's innocence. Coupled with that exquisite, beautiful face, it was impossible to believe that Yi Qing Luo intentionally said these words, or that she really thought that Yi Qing Qian would be able to advance by cleaning the latrine. Full of sarcasm. Instantly, the surrounding students burst out laughing. Yi Qing Qian's face was a mix of green and red as she frowned. That day when she was cleaning the latrine, it seemed to fill her nose again. Cleaning the latrine for 3 days was a memory that Yi Qing Qian didn't want to recall for the rest of her life. That was the biggest stain in her life. After she was punished, the students didn't dare to laugh in front of her because she was a high, profound class student, nor did they dare to mention it. But now, the culprit who caused her to be punished to clean the latrine for 3 days was actually using the stain to ridicule her in front of all the new students. A chord in Yi Qingqian's brain snapped. The pair of gentle and lively, beautiful eyes shot out an intense hatred. Just as Yi Qingqian flew into a rage and attempted to make a move, the hand that she raised was pressed down by a slender hand. Then a cold voice rang out. "Student Yi, can you tell us where you were for the entire day yesterday?" It was Lu Shuiwa. She stood in front of Yi Qingqian with her head held high, and the expression on her face was as cold as usual. Yi Qingluo's eyes narrowed as her slender brows rose slightly. Sure enough, these two people hooked up again. She had originally wanted to agitate Yi Qingqian into losing her rationality and force her to make a move. Then he asked Lu Xiaoyu to summon the instructors and directly send Yi Qingqian to the elder quarters. This way, she could follow the script and continue to develop. She had not expected Lu Xiaoyu to rush over and even specially stopped Yi Qingqian. Yi Qingluo's eyes flashed with ridicule as she laughed lightly. "Don't tell me where I am, where I go, what I eat, and what I do. I have to tell Vice President everything." "Don't talk glibly. You know what you're doing." Lu Shuiyu's face sunk. That term Vice President was simply a slap on her face. Chapter 355. Seventh Sister. You've misunderstood Shuiyu's meaning. Yi Qingqian smiled lightly, gently put her hand on Lu Shuiyu's shoulder, and walked past her towards Yi Qingluo. "The academy will be on holiday in a few days. I want to ask you if you want to go home with me." As she said, her hand naturally grabbed Yi Qingluo's hand. Yi Qingluo sneered in her heart. She understood that Yi Qingqian wanted to test if there was any whip wound on her arm. Since Yi Qingqian wanted to test, then she naturally had to give her a big gift. Yi Qingluo's gaze fell on Yi Qingqian's hand. Her expression changed immediately, and she took a few steps back in a panic. "Elder sister, this you can't touch here." Her dodging made Yi Qingqian's eyes lit up, especially when she saw the panic on Yi Qingluo's face. She was even more certain of her guess. If Yi Qingluo's arm was really injured, then she was definitely the intruder yesterday. "Why can't I touch here?" Yi Qingqian put on a puzzled look. "Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Let me take a look." This time, Yi Qingqian directly grabbed Yi Qingluo's wrist forcefully. She didn't forget to pretend to be concerned as she muttered, "Child, you're so worrisome both at home and in the academy. If you're not feeling well, just tell me. In this academy, I'm your only family. No wonder you're a student from the high profound class. Your profound grade is extremely high. Your innate talent is strong. You're beautiful and so kind, treating your sister so well." In the training ground, a freshman stared at Yi Qingqian with an envious look. "Kind. I didn't see how kind this genius from the high profound class is." Dong Huanglang spat disdainfully and looked at Yi Qingqian mockingly. "Who doesn't know how to pretend? Who knows what she's planning?" Although the other freshmen didn't dare to say it out openly like Dong Huanglang, but they all nodded and agreed with what he said. The surrounding students were basically this batch of new students. Seeing the scene of sisterly affection, they were all suspicious. They weren't fools, and their memories hadn't deteriorated. Yi Qingqian even brought Lu Xiaoyu to find trouble with Yi Qingluo in front of them. It was obvious that the relationship between the two sisters was not as good as it appeared to be. Moreover, the reason why he was waiting for Yi Qingluo at the training ground so early in the morning was to ask her if she wanted to go home together with him. The freshmen looked at each other in dismay. No matter how they looked at it, they felt that Yi Qingqian had another motive. Due to the incident where Yi Qingqian led Lu Xiaoyu to slander Yi Qingluo for violating the academy's regulations, These freshmen' impression of Yi Qingqian had long fallen to the bottom of the valley. That was how people were. When you're doing well, everyone thinks that you're doing well. But when you have the slightest stain, you will deny everything you have ever had and only remember that stain. To these freshmen, there wasn't any image of Yi Qingqian's gentleness and elegance in their minds. What existed was only the image of Yi Qingqian targeting her own sister, and in the end, she went for wool and came home shorn, being punished to clean the latrine. After all, for the past half a month, although Yi Qingluo didn't interact much with them, but every time she trained, her serious and determined attitude was able to motivate everyone, persevering to complete the daily training. Even the cold-faced instructor was full of praise for Yi Qingluo. These freshmen naturally stood on Yi Qingluo's side. However, Yi Qingqian didn't notice this. Her face still hung a concerned smile, her 5 fingers locked onto Yi Qingluo's wrist, grabbing her arm. Chapter 356. Just as Yi Qingqian's hand was about to touch Yi Qingluo's bandaged wound, Yi Qingluo's arm suddenly retracted as she blinked her flustered eyes. "Sister, you really can't touch. This retraction made Yi Qingqian's hand, which was clasping her wrist, slid downwards. Yi Qingqian's grip was extremely tight, and this slip caused the thing in Yi Qingluo's tight sleeve to slip out, falling into Yi Qingqian's hand. Yi Qingqian originally clasped Yi Qingluo's wrist tightly, but after Yi Qingluo struggled free, her palm grabbed onto a soft thing, subconsciously clenched tightly. Immediately, a lump of yellow stuff oozed out from the handkerchief and covered Yi Qingqian's hand. It was sticky and yellow stuff, and it even had a strange stench. This visual impact looked like a hand. Hot shit! Yi Qingqian's face instantly turned as black as charcoal. That mashed up and yellow lump reminded her of a few days ago when she was cleaning the latrine. In the process of cleaning, she couldn't help but be stained with those substances. Immediately, the feeling of tumbling in her stomach became more obvious. The smile on her face could no longer hang on. When the surrounding freshmen saw the lump of stuff in Yi Qingqian's hand, all of their expressions turned ugly and wanted to laugh. Some even held onto the wall as they retched. "Sigh. Eldest sister, I said you can't touch it, look." On the contrary, Yi Qingluo, who was hiding this pile of yellow stuff, looked at Yi Qingqian with a face full of reproach. "This is the mud sculpture which I had painstakingly made yesterday when I was competing with Devil Class's students in playing mud. I still wanted to bring it home and place it in my room." Mud? The freshmen widened their eyes as they stared at the lump of stuff in Yi Qingqian's hand as their mouths twitched. Some of the freshmen had sharp ears and heard the 3 words Devil Class. It was indeed the Devil Class, which was known as the Waste Class. Other students trained hard and worked hard to learn knowledge, while Devil Class students competed in playing mud. When the freshmen thought of Yi Qingluo's performance and training, all of them felt that it was a pity. She was obviously a moldable talent, but she was allocated to the Waste Class and had to accompany a bunch of waste to play mud. This was simply ruining Yi Qingluo. "Big sister, you broke my mud sculpture. You have to compensate me." Yi Qingluo seemed as though she didn't notice the gazes of the surrounding people as she spoke out in grievance. She felt wronged. She still wants me to compensate her. Yi Qingqian's expression was colorful as she was so angry that she wanted to slap Yi Qingluo to death. Putting a lump of mud in her sleeves without rhyme or reason and putting on an innocent look, Yi Qingluo was deliberately playing with her. Yi Qingluo's charming eyes blinked again as she stared at the lump of yellow substance that Yi Qingqian was stiffly carrying. After some time, her expression changed as she covered her nose and retreated backwards. "Elder sister, you look like you've caught a lump of SH*T. It would have been better if he hadn't said it. The moment he said it, the surrounding freshmen who were suppressing their laughter and felt disgusted couldn't help but burst into laughter. "Yi Qingluo, you." Yi Qingqian's face was filled with hatred as she gritted her teeth and wanted to use that lump of thing in her hand to wipe Yi Qing Luo's face. But when she raised her hand, Yi Qing Luo took a few steps back with a look of disgust. The lump of yellow stuff in her hand was sticky to begin with. After she raised her hand, that sticky lump of mud fell from her hand onto the ground. It looked more like a pile of **T. It's almost time for training. What are you all doing? Still not lining up. Chapter 357. Instructor Ho and Instructor Chu walked over expressionlessly as they glanced coldly at Yi Qingqian with an unfriendly expression. It's freshman training time. What are you students from the high profound class doing here? Yi Qingqian had a stomach full of anger and nowhere to vent it. Now that the instructors were here, she could only swallow her anger. Instructor Chu's gaze shifted to Yi Qingqian's hand, which was raised in midair, and after a glance at the lump of yellow substance, he frowned. I heard that Student E was punished to clean the latrine a few days ago. I didn't expect Student E to fall in love with things in the latrine. But this thing is harmful after all. You are a student of the high profound class. Pay attention to your image. Don't smear the name of the high profound class. If you like this stuff, just hide in the dormitory and play with it. This was the first time the freshmen heard Instructor Chu say such a long sentence. They didn't expect him to be so humorous when he looked cold and black. The freshmen couldn't help but burst out laughing. After saying this, Instructor Chu didn't even look at Yi Qingqian. He walked directly to the middle of the training ground and shouted loudly, "A bunch of little brats! Gather immediately!" Yi Qingqian, who was ignored, her twisted face flushed red. She bit her lips hard, restraining the surging anger in her heart. The other party was an instructor. Even if he was a freshman instructor, she couldn't refute him. Otherwise, she would be disrespectful and didn't know how to respect the teachers, especially in front of a group of freshmen. She might even be labeled as a bad influence. Shangguan Fangyi and Yan Zhanfei, who followed behind, saw this situation and walked over with an ugly expression. Student Qingqian, let's leave first. Obviously, the two instructors were helping Yi Qing Luo. They originally came to test if Yi Qing Luo was the intruder in the training ground. But not only did they not succeed, they were humiliated instead. Even if they stayed, they would be a joke to the other students. There was no way to gain any advantage. If it wasn't for the fact that the training forest was a secret place, it would definitely cause panic among the students if the news spread out. They were ordered by the elders not to divulge anything. Otherwise, they would directly strip Yi Qing Luo's clothes and forcibly check if she was injured. Leave. Yi Qingqian's sinister beautiful eyes were covered with frost as she gave a cold humph. Why should I leave? Training is about to begin. As the eldest sister, I naturally have to take a good look and see if my seventh younger sister, who likes to play with mud, is training properly. When she mentioned the word mud, Yi Qingqian gritted her teeth. The two of them were startled, but they immediately reacted. They had all experienced the freshman training, so they naturally knew how tough and tiring it was. Based on the extent of Yi Qingqian's serious injury to that intruder last night, it was absolutely impossible for her to take on these training. Although Shangguan Fangyi and Yan Zhanfei had long dispelled their suspicions towards Yi Qing Luo, one must know that Yi Qingqian had unleashed in earth profound practitioner's coercion yesterday. Yi Qing Luo was just a yellow profound 9th grade cultivator. Her internal organs had been attacked by an earth profound's coercion, and she was still alive and kicking in the training grounds. But looking at Yi Qingqian's ashen face and the **T, the two of them knew that she was infuriated and could only stay behind. When Yi Qing Luo heard the instructor's shouts, she followed along. Lu Xiaoyu followed behind her as she stretched out her hand and hooked onto Yi Qing Luo's arm. Qing Luo, when did you hide such a thing in your sleeves? Ha ha ha. Yi Qingqian's expression is just too good. I've watched a good show so early in the morning. Chapter 358. Earlier, Yi Qingqian had grabbed her wrist with a lot of strength, and in order to squeeze the mud wrapped in her sleeve into Yi Qingqian's hand, she had used a lot of strength to struggle free. This struggle had probably caused the wound on her arm to split open again. Yi Qingqian's whip yesterday was too vicious. Yi Qingluo took a deep breath as she endured the pain and didn't show it on her face. Lu Xiaoyu felt Yi Qingluo's body stiffening and recalled Yi Qingluo's pale face yesterday. A trace of annoyance flashed past her eyes. She immediately loosened her hand. This morning, seeing Yi Qingluo's radiant look, she thought Yi Qingluo was fine. Her heart was filled with guilt as she followed behind Yi Qingluo, her eyes filled with worry. Standing in the team, Yi Qingluo's gaze swept past Yi Qingqian, who was standing outside the training ground as she frowned. She knew Yi Qingqian wasn't someone who could be easily dismissed, but she didn't expect that after personally testing her to confirm that she was not injured, Yi Qingqian still hadn't dispelled the thought of suspecting her. Just a slight movement of her arm and Di Mo Xian's pain relief had lost its effect. If she continued to train, her internal injury would probably worsen. Just as Yi Qingluo was waiting anxiously for old Manu to appear, she suddenly heard Instructor Ho's cold voice. "High profound class students, please do not disturb the freshmen's training. If you have the time, why don't you go to the square and run a few rounds?" Not waiting for Yi Qingqian to reply, Instructor Ho's icy cold gaze fell onto Yi Qingluo. "Student Yi, to create such a commotion early in the morning and even delay his students' training, go to the library pavilion now and clean up the second floor. If you haven't sorted it out properly, don't leave the library pavilion today." The minute he said that, Yi Qingqian's expression changed as her expression changed. She subconsciously clenched her fists, but forgot that her palms were filled with sticky, yellow substance. The moment she clenched her fists, the mud on her hands was squeezed out. It landed on Shang Guanfang Yi and Yan Zhenfei, who were standing nearest to her. Both of their faces flushed red. Their hearts were filled with disgust, but they didn't dare to show it on their faces. Yi Qingqian was so infuriated that she was trembling, and her throat felt a fishy sweetness as she almost vomited blood. She originally wanted to probe out Yi Qingluo's true colors, and as long as she was certain that Yi Qingluo was the intruder, the elder quarters would absolutely not let her off easily. He had never expected that he would become a joke. She took a deep breath and suppressed the rage in her heart. She didn't believe that Yi Qingluo could be so lucky for a few more times. With a swing of her arm, Yi Qingqian's face darkened as she turned around and left the freshman training grounds. The freshman's vision fell from Yi Qingqian to Yi Qingluo. She shook her head in sympathy. It was obviously Yi Qingqian who came looking for trouble, but the one who was punished was Yi Qingluo. Although they were freshmen, they knew that the library of the Heavenly Academy was so big that one could get lost in the toilet. To clean the library, even if they cleaned for an entire day, they might not be able to finish it. While the freshmen were pitying her, Yi Qingluo heaved a sigh of relief. It was a good thing for her to clean the library and avoid training. At least in the library, no one would find out that she was injured. Yi Qingluo took a step forward and raised her eyes to look at Instructor Ho. Yes. When she saw the helpless and worried look in Instructor Ho's eyes, Yi Qingluo suddenly understood. It looked like the instructors had discovered Yi Qingqian's motive for looking for her. They could tell that she was indeed injured. That was why they asked her to go to the library. It was perfectly justifiable to avoid training and avoid Yi Qingqian's sight. Chapter 359. The Heavenly Academy's library pavilion was equivalent to the modern society's library, gathering all kinds of books from the Nirvana realm. There were also many books that were lost in the outside world, which could be found here. Mental cultivation methods, everything was there. But the library pavilion also had its own rules. You had to rely on your ability to speak. The first level of the library pavilion was open to all students, but most of them were ordinary books on profound qi, cultivation methods, moves, etc., whereas the second level of the library pavilion was rumored to be divided into several categories. Each book was a famous word in the outside world, but they were all rare treasures. It was rumored that there were students on the second level who had learned many useful mental cultivation methods. However, low and intermediate profound class students were not qualified to go up to the second level of the library pavilion, nor were they qualified to borrow books back to the dormitory to read. Although high profound class students were qualified to go up to the second level, but there were restrictions. For example, the cabinet on the second level. High profound class students were absolutely not allowed to step into it, and the books on the second level could not be brought out of the library pavilion. Only the students from the class of God could enjoy all the preferential treatment in the library pavilion. Yi Qing Luo had originally intended to find time to visit the library pavilion after the freshman training, to familiarize herself with the situation in this strange world. She had not expected to come to the library pavilion early today, and it was directly up to the second level. Yi Qing Luo took the punishment slip from Instructor Ho, and under the guidance of the librarian, went up to the second level. Of course, no one was envious of Yi Qing Luo being able to go up to the second level. As the second level was more secretive, the librarian was not qualified to stay on the second level for too long, so it had been a long time since they cleaned up the huge second level. Even if Yi Qing Luo went up to the second level, just cleaning up would take up an entire day. Where would she find the time to read? The second level was brightly lit, and the four sides were inlaid with fist-sized, luminous pearls. The furnishings on the second level were different from the first level. The first level was row after row of bookshelves, categorized according to the area, whereas on the second level, each category had its own individual room. As far as the eye could see, it was room after room, with the category of books pasted on the door. After the librarian opened the door to the second level, he went downstairs. Yi Qing Luo had been enduring the pain, and now that she was alone, her face instantly turned pale and her forehead started to sweat. She looked around and confirmed that there were no high, profound class students on the second floor. She then pushed a random reading room and locked the door. Leaning against the wall, she slowly sat on the floor. Yi Qing Luo unbuttoned her shirt, revealing half of her shoulder. The whip wound on his arm had indeed split open. At this moment, bright red blood seeped out and dyed the white gauze red. She took out the pill that Bai Ming Lulu had given her from the profound phoenix ring and swallowed it. Then he bandaged his wound again. He leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. After resting for a long time, the pain in his right arm gradually disappeared. However, she couldn't do any physical training right now. As for cleaning, she probably couldn't do it either. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath, propped herself up against the wall, and walked out of the reading room. She had to read through all the books on the second floor before she could sort out the best tidying plan and quickly finish the cleaning. There weren't many people on the second level, and no one had tidied it up for a long time. There was a lot of dust, and the categories were randomly placed. Yi Qing Luo walked all the way to the end of the second level and memorized all the categories on the door. His mind began to think about where to start cleaning, the easiest and most efficient way to complete the task of cleaning. Chapter 360. Someone's there? Yi Qing Luo cautiously stopped her actions as her body subconsciously leaned against the wall. This voice didn't sound like a young man's voice, but an extremely deep voice, at least 30 to 40-year-old middle-aged man's voice. Heavenly Academy students, the oldest was only 24 years old, because Heavenly Academy had a rule. If one was unable to graduate from the academy before 25, he would be expelled from the academy directly. The library pavilion was only open to high profound class and class of God students. Even if the masters wanted to come, they had to get the approval from the elders. Because of this, when she heard this deep middle-aged man's voice, Yi Qing Luo instinctively felt that this person had ill intentions. It's settled. The students will be on holiday in 2 days' time. I've already kept those few people whom his lordship had pointed out, without leaving any traces. Following that, a sinister voice was heard. This voice sounded familiar to Yiqing Luo, but she couldn't recall where she had heard this voice before. And this conversation was filled with a strange feeling, as though they were carrying out some sort of plan. Perhaps it was because this timing wasn't the time to read. Or perhaps the two of them often met here at this time of the day. These two didn't check if there was anyone on the second floor of the library pavilion and directly started their conversation. The two of them had already walked into the library pavilion and were standing in the middle of the long corridor in the middle of the reading room. Yiqing Luo was at the end of the long corridor, a long distance away from them, but the surroundings were lit up by the luminous pearls. As long as she took a slight turn, she would be exposed to these two men's line of sight. Hearing their footsteps nearing, Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. These two men's conversation was obviously a secret. If they discovered her existence, they would definitely silence her. In this academy where there were crouching tigers and hidden dragons, Yiqing Luo didn't think that she had the ability to escape from these two undetectable middle-aged men. She congealed her senses and silently recited the incantation in her heart. Her feet shook slightly as she displayed the blink movement secret art and quietly slipped into the reading room at the end of the corridor. She stuck close to the tightly shut wooden door, not daring to make any more movements. Following that, she heard the two men outside walking as they continued to speak. That freshman. Don't worry. I'm keeping a close eye on that freshman. He will absolutely not let his lordship down. When the middle-aged man heard this, he nodded with satisfaction. After a long silence, the middle-aged man said in a deep voice, adding a bit of solemnity, "Master's great plan is about to be completed. If anything happens at this critical juncture, I won't be able to protect your life. Don't worry, Lord Protector. We will do our best to serve the Lord." The middle-aged man nodded in satisfaction. "I will put in a few good words for you in front of the Lord. See you in 2 days. Many thanks to Lord Protector. Lord Protector's great kindness. I will never forget it." Another person immediately flattered, showing his loyalty. Not long after, the corridor outside returned to silence. Yiqing Luo didn't go out immediately and didn't dare to risk releasing her perception to sense if the people outside were still around. About an hour later, the entire second floor was completely silent. Yiqing Luo then rubbed her 4 stiff limbs, which had not moved at all. At this moment, the blood in her body had already numbed her entire body. As she relaxed her 4 limbs, Yiqing Luo's brain was spinning rapidly. From the conversation between the two men earlier, Yiqing Luo heard a few messages. 1. These two men were preparing to implement some plan during the Academy's holiday. 2. The few people whom they pointed out were likely to be related to the Heavenly Academy and needed those few people to complete the plan. 3. Above them was a mysterious man who was addressed as his lordship. Chapter 361. Not knowing if it was her misperception, Yiqing Luo inexplicably felt that the freshman whom they were referring to seemed to be her. These two people, who on earth were they? Moreover, why did one of their voices sound so familiar? But no matter how she searched her super-strong memory, she couldn't recall who this voice belonged to. Somehow, she felt that she had heard something incredible. She furrowed her brows, and her expression became slightly dignified. If the news of her cleaning the second story of the library pavilion were to spread, these two people would definitely think that she had eavesdropped on their conversation, even if they weren't sure if Yiqing Luo had really heard it. But apparently the matter they were discussing was an extremely important matter. She would rather kill wrongly than let it go. Sigh. She didn't expect that she would bump into such a matter when she was punished to clean the library pavilion. She was afraid. Her future days were not going to be peaceful. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers pinched her aching brows. This matter, she would discuss it with DMO Xian tonight. For now, it was better to tidy up the second story first. Before the other party took any action, she better not let the cat out of the bag. Yi Qing Luo finished stretching her limbs and was preparing to leave the room when her footsteps halted. Because the room she was in now wasn't the reading room. Earlier, when she hid in, she placed all her attention on the conversation between the two and totally didn't notice the surrounding environment. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she surveyed the surroundings of the room. This wasn't a reading room, but an alchemy room. In the spacious room, there were 2 large medicinal cabinets along the wall, and in the middle of the room were 2 huge wooden tables. On the wall opposite the medicinal cabinets, there was a bookshelf, and books were piled messily on it. On the wooden table, there was a pile of bottles and jars. Some were successfully refined pills, and some failed pills, all piled up into a messy pile. On the other wooden table, there are various kinds of alchemy equipment, as well as messy medicinal herbs and magical beast skin and bones. Why was there an alchemy room on the 2nd story of the library pavilion? As an alchemist, upon seeing these rare medicinal herbs and pills, Yi Qing Luo instantly became excited as she walked quickly to the front of the wooden table. Yi Qing Luo first looked at the pill refining equipment on the table, as she started to sort out the messy pile of medicinal herbs. Every single type of herbs, Yi Qing Luo would use her fingers to measure the size of these herbs, and from time to time she would sniff it. Yi Qing Luo had seen these herbs in the 100 pill refining books, and they were all rare and precious. But there were several herbs which Yi Qing Luo couldn't identify. After Yi Qing Luo had distributed these medicinal herbs, her vision turned towards the other table where those bottles and jars were. She walked over and picked up a bottle. The medicine bottle was just an ordinary porcelain, and it could not hide the faint fragrance of medicine. Yi Qing Luo sniffed it and opened one of the bottles, pouring out 1 pill. It was a small, exquisite pill. There was even a faintly discernible flowing light on the surface of the pill. This discovery made Yi Qing Luo's eyes burst out a ray of light. She had refined so many elixirs, but none of the elixirs she had refined had such a peculiar phenomenon. Putting the pills back into the bottle, Yi Qing Luo casually picked up the wooden box by the side, which was filled with failed pills. The pills were full of potholes and had yet to take shape. Yi Qing Luo picked up 1 pill and took a look. That medicinal fragrance apparently wasn't refined using ordinary pills. Chapter 362. Yi Qing Luo walked around and conveniently tidied up the messy things on the table. These medicinal herbs were very light and didn't require much effort. Yi Qing Luo used 1 hand to tidy up the things on the 2 tables. She noticed the medicinal cabinets and bookshelves in the room. To an alchemist, the medicinal herbs and books used to refine pills were the most interesting things in the world. Yi Qing Luo was no exception. Her current level of alchemy was still stuck at the level of an alchemist, although she was still 1 stage away from being a grandmaster. But the pills that the 2 of them refined were not just 1 grade apart. This alchemy room was obviously the place of a top-grade alchemist who was above her. Pills and medicinal herbs were not ordinary items. Presumably the books on the bookshelves were precious alchemy books which couldn't be found in the outside world. With this thought in mind, Yi Qing Luo walked towards the bookshelves. Her hand had just touched the bookshelf and she wanted to take out a book. However, as soon as his hand touched it, before he could even react, the ground beneath his feet suddenly became empty, and his body abruptly sank. This sinking, Yi Qing Luo's hand directly fell onto a slope and her entire body rolled down the slope. The pain from the wound which she had finally stopped was once again felt a heart-wrenching pain. That warm light which was released from the profound jade heart started to spread chaotically in her body. Her 5 viscera and 6 bowels were no longer covered by the warm light. Immediately, a heart-wrenching pain invaded her limbs and bones. Damn it! She was in so much pain. Yi Qing Luo broke out in cold sweat as she laid on the ground with her limbs spread wide open, totally unable to move. The pain from the whip and internal injury struck her at the same time, and she really couldn't take it. Lying on the ground, she panted heavily. After some time, she slowly regained her senses. There was actually a secret passage in that alchemy room. She didn't know what she had bumped into, but she actually fell into the secret passage. Yi Qing Luo's head moved as she checked the surrounding situation. This was an extremely spacious secret room. In the entire secret room, there was only a medicinal cauldron in the middle. At this moment, that medicinal cauldron was floating in midair, and below the medicinal cauldron was a ball of warm fire. Apparently, it was in the process of refining pills. But there was no alchemist around. Yi Qing Luo's eyes widened in astonishment as she carefully scanned the surroundings and released her perception. However, there was indeed no one else in the empty secret room. Girl, the person who refined this medicine cauldron should be an ancestral alchemist. Old man Tsang's voice sounded in her mind. The medicine sect? Yi Qing Luo was shocked. Isn't the same level as your alchemy? The quality of this alchemist's medicine refinement should be above mine. Old man Tsang sighed with emotion. Alchemists above the alchemy ancestor level can leave at any time in the middle of refining pills. Like Yi Qing Luo, when she was refining the medicinal pills, she had to sit by the side of the divine dragon cauldron at all times, controlling the heart fire and observing the formation of the medicinal pills. If she could advance to the rank of a medicine master, she would be able to control her heart fire as she pleased during pill refinement. She would no longer need to watch over her pill refinement, and she would be able to save a lot of time. Lass, think of a way to leave this place. Old man Tsang said worriedly. If we wait for the medicine sect's alchemist to return, I'm afraid that he will mistakenly think that you're trying to steal the pills. At that time, it will be troublesome if there's a misunderstanding. Indeed, troublesome, based on Yi Qing Luo's current condition. If she really met with a medicine sect's alchemist, she wouldn't even have the ability to escape. If the Heavenly Academy's medicine sect's alchemist treated her as a student who stole the pills and captured her to the director, the news of her being in the library pavilion today would probably spread throughout the entire academy. Chapter 363. Yi Qing Luo shut her eyes and slept quietly for a moment. Following that, she took a deep breath and forcefully endured the intense pain as she sat up straight. The four sides were sealed off by stone walls, and the slope which she had rolled down from earlier was also sealed off by the stone wall, with no entrance to be seen. Based on Yi Qing Luo's current state, there was no way to open that stone wall. This is troublesome. Old man Tsang's tone was grave. I have no way to manifest my spiritual body to open this stone wall for you. Why not? Summon Shiju out to try? Yi Qing Luo nodded. She couldn't use her strength, but luckily she had Shiju with her. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath and called Shiju out. Shiju was in the pet space and had already heard their conversation. The minute it appeared, it didn't need Yi Qing Luo's instruction as its little body arched up. Its fur stood up and its body suddenly became huge. Roar! Shiju gave a low growl as its beast eyes were pitch black and sharp. Its huge body suddenly leapt up and its huge leopard claw directly slammed onto the stone wall. Bam! A loud sound was heard. Yi Qing Luo felt the entire secret room shook thrice. But that stone wall didn't move at all, not even a single piece of debris. Yi Qing Luo blinked. Shiju blinked. One human and one beast looked at each other, speechless. WH! What the hell was this situation? Shiju's claw had used 80% of its strength, and it was actually unable to break through this stone wall? What kind of place was this? So powerful. Roar, roar! Shiju's eyes flashed as it raised its claw unyieldingly and slammed onto that stone wall. This claw shook the entire secret room, as though it was about to collapse. Yi Qing Luo's body swayed a little, causing waves of throbbing pain in her internal organs. Her slender brows creased into a bundle as she sucked in several breaths of cold air. However, the stone wall still didn't budge. Don't tell me I really have to wait for that sex alchemist to return before I can leave. Roar, roar. Shiju's body suddenly shrunk as it nestled beside Yiqing Luo, sticking out its little tongue as it licked her face. The low whimper seemed to be apologizing to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. It's not your fault. I know you've tried your best. Looks like the owner of this secret room is a very powerful person. Even as a mirage beast, Shiju had no way of knocking open this stone wall. This was enough to prove that the medicine sex alchemist's power was definitely at the earth mystic realm and above. Yiqing Luo had just finished her words when suddenly a light, fluttering voice was heard by her ear. This little girl is quite self-aware. This voice was so cold that it seemed to be covered in a layer of frost. Before Yiqing Luo could even turn around, her body suddenly felt light as she was grabbed by her collar and forcefully pulled up. Shiju, who was lying by her side because of the sudden action, fell off Yiqing Luo's body as it waved its little claws towards the sky. This action made Yiqing Luo's internal organs feel as though they were being torn apart, causing her forehead to be filled with cold sweat. A skinny old man stood in front of him. His entire body was enveloped in a white, long robe. Even his head was covered tightly. This white robe didn't look like the robes of the masters or elders' quarters. It was plain and clean without any patterns, just like a clean piece of white cloth. The only adornment was the 5 golden star-shaped badge which was embedded in front of his chest. Under the long robe, the pair of malicious eyes were so cold that there wasn't a single trace of emotion. His hand easily grabbed Yiqing Luo's collar as he got closer to her. Young lady, get out of here. Chapter 364. This throw made Yiqing Luo like a kite with a broken string as she fell out. Yiqing Luo couldn't muster up any strength, so she had no way to maintain her balance. Seeing that it was about to crash into the stone wall, the Shiju, which was sprawled on the ground, scurried towards Yiqing Luo like lightning. Its body size turned huge in time as it used its plump and huge body to block Yiqing Luo. Shiju's skin was very thick, and the moment it crashed into it, Yiqing Luo felt as though her body was falling apart as the pain was unbearable. This man, his temper was really weird, throwing her away without any explanation. Did he treat her as an object? Yiqing Luo's collar was held in Shiju's mouth as it slowly placed her on the ground. It specially laid on the ground as it used its body to support Yiqing Luo's body. Earlier it was you, this little thing, who wanted to smash the secret room which I used 1,000-years-old crystal to create. Long-robed old man's cold gaze shot toward Shiju. When he saw Shiju, his eyes flashed past a trace of covetous intent. Good skeleton! Good skin. His words had just ended when the long-robed old man's figure flashed and stood in front of Yiqing Luo. Under the loose long robe, a withered yellow arm stretched out as its 5 fingers turned into a claw as it clawed towards Shiju's neck. That momentum was extremely ferocious, as though a whirlwind had struck. Mirage beasts were born with strong senses and could acutely sense the long-robed old man's murderous intent as its eyes instantly filled with a scarlet color. Its fangs bit onto Yiqing Luo's collar as it speedily retreated. Bam! A loud sound was heard as the long-robed old man's hand, which had turned into an eagle's claw, struck against the stone wall. Earlier, no matter how Shiju slammed against the stone wall, it didn't even leave a single scratch on the stone wall. That eagle's claw had actually scratched out 5 cracks. Stones splattered out as it landed on the ground. Yiqing Luo's pupils constricted as her heart was overwhelmed with shock. This old man was not an ordinary kind of powerful. Shiju was unable to smash the stone wall, but he had easily left a mark on it. Yiqing Luo didn't dare to imagine what would happen if the old man's hand had landed on Shiju's neck. Her eyes were covered with a layer of vigilance and coldness, as she was worried that Shiju would be frightened. She endured the pain as she caressed Shiju's body as she patted it gently. After all, Shiju's age among the Mirage beasts was only equivalent to a 7 or 8-year-old child. "Little girl, leave the magical beast. You scram." The cold voice was filled with madness and excitement. The pair of eyes under the white robe seemed to be staring at its prey, revealing a bloodthirsty delight. This old man's madness was completely unlike Gui Yu's wanton madness. It was true insanity. From this old man's tone and expression, Yiqing Luo was extremely certain that he wasn't joking. Recalling the magical beast skin and bones on the table in the pill refining room, Yiqing Luo's heart surged with a chill. This old man wanted to use Shiju's skin, flesh, and bones to turn them into ingredients for refining medicine. "Senior, I'm a student of the devil class. Today I've been punished to the 2nd level to clean up. I didn't mean to offend Senior." Her eyes were alert. Her tone was neither servile nor overbearing. She revealed her identity. For this old man to be in the Heavenly Academy and to be able to establish his own alchemist on the 2nd floor of the library pavilion, he must be one of the higher-ups in the Heavenly Academy. It was very likely that they were from the Elder Division. As a student, she was protected by the Academy. That old man in long robe raised his withered yellow arm and directly lifted the robe on his head, revealing a skinny little face. He was over 50 years old. His face was pale and his eyelids sunken, looking as though he was physically weak. But his dignified expression made one feel intimidated. Chapter 365. Even if I have no intention to offend you, I will absolutely not allow anyone to step into my pill refining room. Long-robed old man's lips curled into a sinister arc. Either you scram and leave the magical beast behind, or both of you and the magical beast stay behind. Looked like this old man had his eyes on her Shiju. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. Feeling helpless that she had fallen into this secret room and was thrown by the old man, causing her internal injury to relapse, and now she couldn't even teleport. Otherwise, she could still make use of this skill to escape from this place. Since she couldn't escape, she couldn't possibly leave Shiju behind and leave alone. It was because Shiju's mother believed in her ability that she passed her precious son to her, to let him grow up together with her. She absolutely could not let down Shiju's mother's trust. More importantly, she, Yiqing Luo, didn't have the habit of using her companion to exchange for her own life. Seeing Yiqing Luo not moving, the old man's sinister eyes flashed past a sly sneer. That withered, skinny fingers turned into a claw once again as his feet moved. His speed was so fast that Yiqing Luo couldn't catch him at all. She only felt a gust of murderous, cold wind blowing towards her. Something flashed in front of Yiqing Luo, and the target was still Shiju. Her breathing tightened as her right hand suddenly raised up and a feather fan opened up, sweeping a gust of strong wind. Ding! A crisp sound was heard as the old man's 5 claws crashed directly onto the feather fan. That strong force made Yiqing Luo's arm feel numb and pain. The feather fan in her hand fell onto the ground. Her uninjured hand had already lost all feeling as it lay stiffly by her side. However, Yiqing Luo's expression didn't show any signs of fear. Her face was as pale as before, but her gaze was like a torch, filled with unyielding determination. "It is my companion, not a pill refining ingredient." Shiju gave a low growl as its huge beast head rubbed against Yiqing Luo's face. Its head was the size of half of Yiqing Luo's body. This rubbing made Yiqing Luo wrapped up tightly by Shiju, not revealing any part of her. It turned its head and bared its sharp fangs at the old man. Its scarlet eyes expressed its fury. One human and one beast, mutually protecting each other. He knew that he was no match for the old man, but he still placed him at the apex of his heart. Yiqing Luo's gaze was like a torch as she stared at the old man. Using Shiju's huge body as a cover, her fingers had already touched the profound phoenix ring. The long-robed old man's strike was blocked by Yiqing Luo, and he was obviously astonished. When he heard her sonorous and forceful words, the old man's expression was not as cold as before. You know that magical beasts are ingredients for alchemy? The monster cores, flesh, and bones of magical beasts are all good materials for alchemy. The higher the level of the magical beast, the higher the success rate of alchemy. Also, the medicinal effects of the refined pills will be stronger than ordinary pills. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips as she honestly answered the old man's question. The fact that he could talk to her nicely and didn't try to kill her at the slightest disagreement meant that there was still a possibility of peace. The old man narrowed his malicious eyes as he slowly walked towards Yi Qing Luo. Every step he took, Yi Qing Luo's heart tightened. Her fingers had already touched the edge of the profound phoenix ring as she took out the pain-relieving pills which Bai Ming Lulu had given her. The old man stopped in front of her. How did you know? Ordinary alchemists would usually follow the rules and follow the pill's secret manuals, as well as the pill list which they had comprehended themselves to refine pills. But in refining pills, other than the alchemist's own skills, the second most important thing was spiritual qi. Chapter 366. I've read about it in a medicinal pill book. Yi Qing Luo had indeed read about it in the 100 Pills Refining Book, which was about using magical beasts as medicinal ingredients to refine medicinal pills. She intentionally avoided the name of the 100 Pills Refining Book. After all, this was Old Man Tsang's private collection, and from his treasured look, she knew that this book was absolutely extraordinary. As the saying goes, don't reveal your wealth. Facing such a temperamental, strange old man, Yi Qing Luo naturally couldn't reveal all her background. The old man propped his chin thoughtfully as he looked down at the young lady who was leaning on the mirage beast's back. Her face was extremely pale, but there wasn't a single shred of cowering expression on her face. His cold lips suddenly laughed out. The things on the table in the pill refining room. Were you the one who tidied it up? Yi Qing Luo replied with an N, as her heart was filled with suspicions. Could it be that this old man wanted to kill her because she had touched his things? Seeing Yi Qing Luo admit to it, the old man grinned as he took a step forward and kicked something. Lowering his head to take a look, it was an opened feather fan. Earlier, it was this feather fan which had caught the eagle claw, which he had struck out. The old man bent over with interest as he prepared to pick up the feather fan. That skinny finger was just about to touch that feather fan when a dazzling light flashed past. His finger was struck by an electric current and his entire palm felt numb. This feather fan was resisting him. The old man's sinister eyes narrowed slightly as he sized up Yi Qing Luo without blinking, feeling that it was getting more and more interesting. Interested in refining pills. Yi Qing Luo didn't understand the meaning of the old man's question. Her sharp eyes blinked as she met the old man's sinister and treacherous face. Her slender brows creased slightly. What are you trying to say? The old man straightened his back as he kicked that feather fan, but didn't reply Yi Qing Luo's question. He touched his sleeves, but didn't seem to touch anything as the expression on his face contorted and became slightly infuriated. He flicked his sleeves as he strode towards the secret room's stone wall. That stone wall which Shiju's 2 claws couldn't lift earlier had an entrance split open. The old man swiftly walked out of the entrance, and after a while he carried 2 books and threw them towards Yi Qing Luo's face. Yi Qing Luo couldn't avoid it, as Shiju howled, and when the books flew over, it opened its mouth and held it tightly. You have 2 hours to memorize everything on this. If you can't, I'll fulfill the sincere feelings of a man and a beast and throw the 2 of you into the medicine cauldron to refine medicine. Throwing the sentence, the old man flicked his sleeves and went back. The moment the stone wall disappeared, and the stone wall immediately. The stone wall fell into a dead silence once again. Other than her and Shiju's breathing, there was no other sound. Yi Shi. And he even memorized all the things on it? Could it be that this old man has an intermittent relapse disease? Lass, Don't you want to raise your own level of alchemy? Old Man Song sensed that Yi Qing Luo was holding on to a book on alchemy and was in a daze, so he immediately opened his mouth. Lass, don't you want to raise your own pill refining stage? Old Man Song sensed that Yi Qing Luo was in a daze as he opened his mouth. At this stage, other than memorizing the contents of these 2 books, there was no other way. This was the only choice she could make. Yi Qing Luo endured the pain as she shifted her body and rested her head on Shi Ju's back. The book then stood up against Shi Ju's thick claws. This book recorded all kinds of medicinal herbs. The shape, characteristics, as well as the growing location and environment were written clearly. Chapter 367. This was a book for beginners in alchemy. Although Yi Qing Luo had the 100-pill refining manual in her hands, but in the 100-pill refining manual it recorded various precious pill refining methods. However, there was no detailed description of the medicinal herbs and their effects. Yi Qing Luo was able to step into the medicine master stage under such a dazed situation, other than Old Man Song and Cauldron Dragon's guidance. It was because of her strong comprehension ability which gave her an advantage. At this point, the minute Yi Qing Luo saw the entry-level medicinal pill book, she was immediately engrossed in it. He couldn't even feel the pain in his body anymore. If an ordinary person were to read these books, they would find it difficult. There were too many medicinal herbs that only had a slight difference in appearance, but their medicinal effects were completely different. There were also too many herbs that he had never heard of, and their effects and uses were extremely unfamiliar. A long time ago, Yi Qing Luo had developed a unique memory method. Thousands of medicinal herbs, which were hard to differentiate, seemed to have been copied by Yi Qing Luo's eyes, as they were all imprinted in her mind. In less than 1 hour, Yi Qing Luo had memorized that book. Shi Jue considerately bit another book and placed it beside his leg. Maintaining the same posture, after regaining her senses from the sea of books, Yi Qing Luo felt waves of numbness in her 4 limbs, which was extremely uncomfortable. She moved, trying to change her position so she could continue reading. But when she moved, her body twitched uncontrollably a few times. An intense pain spread from all 4 of his limbs. Roar, roar! Seeing this, Shi Ju let out a low roar, and its pitch-black beast eyes were filled with worry. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched as she shook her head. She moved her fingers and took out the painkiller again. Bai Ming Lulu had repeatedly warned him that this kind of medicinal pill could only be taken once at most. If it was taken too closely, not only would it lose the effect of the painkiller, but it would also cause side effects. Yi Qing Luo originally didn't intend to take the second pill, but after seeing this strange old man, if she didn't even have the energy to escape, it would bode ill rather than well. Damn that Yi Qing Jian! By the time her body recovered, she would let Yi Qing Qian suffer an even more devastating pain. Yi Qing Luo was about to stuff the medicine into her mouth when suddenly a slight burst of energy struck towards her face. Yi Qing Luo wanted to hide, but her body couldn't keep up with her brain's reaction. That force directly hit the back of her hand. The painkiller in his hand bounced on the ground, rolling and rolling. He rolled in front of a pair of boots. He lifted his leg and stepped on the painkiller. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she followed the direction of his legs and looked upwards. Senior, what about the agreed 2 hours? You actually dared to take this kind of inferior and harmful elixir? If you want to shorten your lifespan, I can fulfill your wish right now. The old man glanced at her coldly and walked towards her. The painkiller under his feet was crushed to pieces. Inferior quality. If Bai Ming Lulu heard these words, perhaps she would fly into a rage. However, the old man was right about one thing. Although this kind of pain-relieving pill could relieve the body's pain for a certain period of time, it was not enough. But such a pill was too harmful to the body, especially if one took too many. It was very likely that they would become addicted to this type of pill. If he didn't eat it for a day, the pain would be unbearable. Injured. The old man narrowed his sinister eyes as he slowly bent down and directly grabbed Yi Qing Luo's arm, not knowing if the old man did it on purpose. This claw just happened to grab Yi Qing Luo's injured arm. Chapter 368. The old man frowned, and after smelling the blood stench from Yi Qing Luo's body, his expression instantly turned gloomy. He hated trouble, but the young lady who barged into his secret room kept on creating trouble for him. He wanted to settle this trouble directly with one palm, but on seeing the young lady, who was obviously immobile, but in order to protect her own war pet, she stood out bravely, he suddenly felt a little reluctant, especially when he thought of the medicinal herbs which he had made into a ball on the pill refining table, but had been sorted according to the medicinal effects. He felt even more reluctant. Moreover, this young lady actually knew how to use the magical beast skin and bones as medicinal herbs to refine medicinal pills, to gather the spiritual qi of the pill refining, to make the medicinal effect of the pill even stronger. The old man was a pill refining maniac. This young lady was kind-hearted and calm when faced with problems. Even when facing his murderous intent, she was still able to remain calm in the face of danger. She even knew quite a bit about medicinal herbs, so the old man was filled with admiration. The old man's inner heart was struggling as he kept on scratching his head in frustration. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes and didn't feel any murderous intent from the old man, so she mustered up her courage and said, "I suffered some internal injuries, and now I can't concentrate because of the pain. I've just finished reading a book and want to take some painkillers to concentrate on finishing the second book." Her words had just ended when Yi Qing Luo's wrist was already locked by the old man. The speed was so fast that Yi Qing Luo totally couldn't react in time. The old man's 2 fingers were placed on her pulse. The strength was extremely strong, and Yi Qing Luo totally couldn't move at all. "TSK, TSK, TSK, you really know how to torture yourself." The old man flung her hand away and shook his head in disdain. A profound cultivator in the mystic profound realm. Her body is filled with earth profound qi. Her internal organs are not shattered. She's really lucky. Just 1 pulse, and the old man accurately and speechlessly described Yi Qing Luo's body's condition. Young ladies' willpower is not bad. If it was anyone else, they would have fainted from this kind of pain. The old man seemed to be in deep thoughts as his lips twitched, revealing a smile. It was just that this smile, when paired with his cold and ruthless face, seemed exceptionally strange. The old man released Yi Qing Luo's wrist and stood up. "From tomorrow onwards, report to the pill refining room every day and help me clean the place." Yi Qing Luo went into a blank as her eyes blinked. What the hell was this situation? Did the old man not intend to take her life? You have the foundation to differentiate the herbs. Why are you so stupid? Seeing Yi Qing Luo's blank look, the old man's tone became anxious again. Little Luo quickly agreed to him. Old Man Song was anxious for Yi Qing Luo in the Azure Dew Bracelet. This elder-level alchemist is going to teach you the ability to refine pills. Yi Qing Luo remained silent for a long time. This strange old man was mysterious and unpredictable. Yi Qing Luo didn't know what was his motive for making her stay behind. "Don't be too happy too early. If you don't meet my requirements, I will still chase you out of here." The old man snorted coldly as he took out a jade bottle from his sleeve and threw it onto Yi Qing Luo. The jade bottle was made of ordinary porcelain, and there was a faint fragrance of fresh medicine coming from the bottle cap. What painkiller pills? Pills that hurt the body? You're not allowed to casually take them in the future. The old man frowned, his thin face wrinkled. Following that, a few more books were thrown at Lin Fan's face. After that, the old man flicked his sleeves and left the secret chamber. This time round, that open entrance didn't close up. This old man, he was really temperamental. Just a moment ago, he wanted to kill her, but the next moment he treated her as one of his own. Chapter 369. Yi Qing Luo didn't hesitate and popped a pill into her mouth. She didn't doubt if the strange old man's pill could cure her internal injury. If the strange old man wanted her life, it was just a snap of his fingers. There was no need to spend so much effort. The pill melted in her mouth like a warm spring water, flowing down her throat and slowly seeping into her body. That ball of warmth wrapped around her heart. The pain in her body gradually subsided. Lass, if you want to raise your alchemy level as soon as possible, you do need someone to lead you. Although this alchemist has a strange temper, but if you can get his guidance, you will soon be able to advance to a grandmaster alchemist. Old Man Song was really envious of Lass Luo's luck. Coincidentally, he had bumped into a medicine ancestor level alchemist and even caught the eye of the other party. With Lass Luo's aptitude, breaking through to the grandmaster level was just around the corner. Yi Qing Luo slowly opened her eyes after she had swallowed all the pill's effects. Her originally heavy and painful body became much more relaxed. She could also do some simple movements of raising her hand and getting up. Yi Qing Luo placed the jade bottle into the profound phoenix ring. It was indeed a pill refined by an alchemist of Grandmaster. If she took one a day, her body would definitely recover in less than 3 days. Yi Qing Luo recalled the strange old man's skinny face, and her lips couldn't help but curl up. Although the strange old man's temper was a bit strange, but his character was similar to Old Man Guiyu. If she stayed by his side and learned some knowledge about alchemy, it would only be beneficial to her and no harm at all. Moreover, Ziling's leg was still waiting for her to treat. Moreover, she still needed to help Old Man Song reconstruct his body. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed a trace of determination as she borrowed Shiju's strength to stand up. She stretched out her limbs. Although her body was still a little uncomfortable, it was no longer that kind of heart-wrenching pain from before. Keeping Shiju back into the pet space, Yi Qing Luo left the secret room. After walking out of the secret room, she returned to the alchemy room. Before she fell into the secret room, the herbs and equipment that she had tidied up were messed up again. The 2 tables were in a terrible mess. And that strange old man was not in the medicine refining room. Just as he was about to tidy up the things on the table again, he heard a soft thud coming from outside the tightly shut door. Yi Qing Luo's movements froze. Someone came to the 2nd floor of the library. The minute she recalled the plan that the 2 middle-aged men were discussing, Yi Qing Luo's heart started to hang in suspense. "Lower your voice." A low shout came from outside the door. When she heard this voice, Yi Qing Luo's grave expression immediately relaxed. It was Qiao Jin's voice. Listening to the footsteps outside, there were about 4 people. Yi Qing Luo opened the pill refining room's door and walked out, just in time to see Qiao Jin standing in the middle of the long corridor, directing the other 3 to clean up the library pavilion. Hearing footsteps behind him, Qiao Jin sharply turned his head. On seeing that it was Yi Qing Luo, his face revealed a joyous expression. "Student Yi, where have you been?" When the other 3 heard the noise, they immediately put down what they were doing and jogged over. After they found out that Yi Qing Luo was punished to the 2nd story of the library pavilion, they immediately rushed over to the 2nd story. Although she was punished to the library pavilion, it was justifiable for her to avoid training. But with Yi Qing Luo's current condition, she probably couldn't even do simple cleaning. Because of this, Qiao Jin brought along 3 students to the 2nd story to help. Chapter 370. Qiao Jin was burning with anxiety, worried that Yi Qing Luo had fainted in some corner because of her body's condition. As he asked Yan Xiao, Yi, and the rest to clean the library pavilion, he sent out a signal for Devil Class's students to search around the academy. Following that, he searched every corner of the 2nd story. On the 2nd story of the library pavilion, under the situation where they were tidying and searching at the same time, Yi Qing Luo finally appeared after they had tidied up halfway. "Rest here." Yi Qing Luo pointed to the door behind her. Qiao Jin and the others' agitated faces instantly froze. All of them opened their mouths wide in astonishment as they rubbed their eyes and looked towards the wooden signboard on the door of that room. On the door of the room, there was a wooden sign with the words, Medicine Refinement Room. You actually entered this room? Qiao Jin pointed at the pill refining room as his expression changed. How long have you been resting in that room for? Didn't meet anyone? From their expressions, Yi Qing Luo could roughly guess. Earlier, that strange old man should be an influential figure in this academy. Even Qiao Jin was terror-stricken. I met a strange old man. Yi Qing Luo told them the truth. The four of them exchanged glances as their eyes were filled with astonishment. Met Ghost Doctor? Then how did you? Walked out in one piece? The few of them were filled with questions. Their devil class had been in the academy for so many years, and they had never been afraid of anyone. Only this temperamental ghost doctor was simply hard to fathom. Our academy's ghost doctor is the academy's #1 alchemist, and he has already reached the stage of alchemy ancestor. In the entire Nirvana realm, there are probably less than 5 alchemy ancestor alchemists. When Bei Ming Lu mentioned about pill refining and ghost doctor, her eyes were filled with obvious admiration and worship. Ghost doctor? So that strange old man was called Ghost Doctor. Ghost Doctor's temper is too explosive, and an entire academy, other than Master Goeyu, no one else can tolerate his character. So the academy specially set up an independent pill refining room for him on the 2nd story of the library pavilion. The traffic on the 2nd story of the library pavilion was lesser, and if it wasn't for the academy's special assignment, students from High Profound class or Class of Gods wouldn't be able to find the time to read the books on the 2nd story. To these students, instead of reading these armchair strategizing books, it was better to spend more time cultivating Xian Qi and work hard to improve their Xian level. The ghost doctor's temper is really abnormally bad. No one is allowed to take a single step into his medicine refining room. Previously, I heard that Elder Yunxiang had received the dean's orders to come to the medicine refining room to look for him, but was directly chased out by the ghost doctor. At this point, Bai Ming Lu's face also collapsed. The ghost doctor never accepts disciples. There were students who wanted to learn alchemy, thinking that they could use their sincerity to move the ghost doctor. In the end, they were also kicked out. Looking at Bei Ming Lu's expression, Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh. Among them includes you, right? Of course. The ghost doctor is my motivation to move forward my goal. Bai Ming Lu slightly raised her head. Her clear and beautiful eyes were tinged with a trace of unswerving determination. It was an incomparably resolute gaze for the sake of one's dream, for the sake of one's goal. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes rose, the corners of her long and narrow eyes outlined an extremely shallow arc. Heaven will not mistreat a hard-working child. Bei Ming Lu rubbed her nose. Her beautiful eyes blinked as she stared at the wooden signboard behind Yi Qing Luo, which had the words, Pill Refining Room. Chapter 371. Yi Qing Luo remained silent for a moment. He asked me to report to the pill refining room every day to help him clean up. Qiao Jin. Bei Ming Lu's eyes widened as she hugged her head. Tong Ziqing's little face was icy cold, but her eyes were filled with astonishment. Yan Xiaoyi's watery eyes blinked as she dug her ears, turning her head stiffly towards the 3 of them. Am I hearing things? The 3 of them nodded their heads in unison. It was absolutely a hallucination. Who was Ghost Doctor? He had such an explosive temper and had always been a loner. Even if the director personally came to invite him to guide the students in refining medicine, he would be kicked out directly. Yi Qing Luo barged into the pill refining room and actually stayed behind, and she could report to the pill refining room every day. Clean up? Bei Ming Lu covered her face as she cried out, Ching Luo, let's exchange. I'm willing to clean up for Ghost Doctor every day. I'm willing, Are you sure after the exchange, Ghost Doctor won't kick you out? Yen Xiao, he added a cold stab. Bei Ming Lu's cries became even more mournful as the gaze she gave Yi Qing Luo was filled with envy and jealousy. The crowd recalled that when Yi Qing Luo first entered the academy, she was also inexplicably attracted by Guiyu and had been chasing after her, clamoring to take her in as his disciple. This young lady. Could it be that she had a special physique, specially attracted to these crouching tigers, hidden dragons, eccentric people? She was taken in by Guiyu, and now she entered Ghost Doctor's eyes. No wonder when Yi Qing Luo left the freshman training grounds, her face was still pale, as though her internal injury had worsened. But now, when she came out from Ghost Doctor's pill refining room, her expression was obviously not that ugly, and she looked much more energetic. Looked like Ghost Doctor should have stepped in to treat Yi Qing Luo's internal injury. With Ghost Doctor taking action, they naturally need not worry. Under everyone's jealous and envious gazes, Yi Qing Luo stayed in the reading room, reading the books Ghost Doctor had left for her, whereas the other four accepted their fate and cleaned the library pavilion's cleanliness, although the punishment was to avoid training. But if this library pavilion wasn't cleaned properly, Yi Qingqian's side would probably start gossiping again. This kind of busyness continued till 3 in the afternoon, when the four of them finally tidied up the entire second story's books. Yi Qing Luo had also finished reading the 2 medicinal pills books. To prevent others from discovering them, Qiao Jin and the others tidied up the second floor and led the other 3 away. Before he left, he didn't forget to whisper, "Go to the class committee room later. The class monitor is waiting for you there." Long Yunjian, was he finally willing to return Mu Qiqi to her? She also wanted to find Long Yunjian and ask him about the meaning of the riddle he played with Qiqi that day, holding the punishment slip and handing it over to the administrator. The administrator still couldn't believe that Yi Qing Luo would be able to clean up such a huge library pavilion in such a short time. He specially went upstairs to check once to ascertain that the second story was indeed clean and tidy before he signed Yi Qing Luo's punishment slip. Yi Qing Luo went straight to the devil class, and it was already time for training. The students lined up one by one and were jogging. Yi Qing Luo walked directly towards the class committee room, and along the way, it was completely silent. When she pushed open the door, there was only Long Yunjian seated inside. "Where's Qiqi?" Yi Qing Luo looked around but didn't see Qiqi. Long Yunjian's azure blue eyes gazed deeply at Yi Qing Luo as he lightly patted his sleeves. A palm-sized meatball rolled out from his sleeves. Chapter 372. These few days, in order to investigate my matter, Qiqi had expended quite a bit of energy, and now it's in a deep sleep state. Long Yunjian's clear voice was extremely light. "It doesn't want me to tell you, but as its owner, there are some things that you should know." Yi Qing Luo stared at that tiny ball. It was so tiny, and in her hands, it was so light that she couldn't feel any weight at all. She carefully sent Qiqi into the pet space. Qiqi, who had a life contract with her, could only receive the best self-care in the pet space. Raising her eyes again, Yi Qing Luo's expression was calm without any ripples. "What's going on?" "Until now, I'm not too sure what's going on, and I can't believe everything that I know. But everything is real." Long Yunjian slowly shut his eyes, and when he opened them again, that pair of azure blue eyes had already been covered with a layer of gray. His look inexplicably made one's heart ache for him. That pair of azure blue eyes revealed an expression, as though he was an abandoned child, unable to find a place to return to. Even though she had many questions in her heart, Yi Qing Luo didn't speak out immediately. She quietly waited for Long Yunjian to bring it up. But this wait took an entire incense worth of time. Long Yunjian's thick eyelashes trembled slightly, making that azure blue eyes look like ripples. After some time, he finally fixed his focus on Yi Qing Luo's direction. You. His thin lips moved slightly, as though he wanted to say something. But his gaze stared at Yi Qing Luo's face for some time before he immediately lowered his eyelids. Training has started. Go and train. Ah. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched. Long Yunjian was obviously looking for her because he had something to tell her. But when the words reached the tip of his tongue, he didn't say it out. Regarding the secret between Chi-Chi and him, regarding why Chi-Chi was so exhausted that it fell into a deep sleep state, there were too many things which Long Yunjian had yet to explain. Even if he was teasing her, it shouldn't be like this, right? Yi Qing Luo abruptly stood up as both her hands propped on the table. Long Yunjian, you are attracted by Chi's sacred beast presence and can understand beast language. Tell me honestly, are you? She wasn't able to finish her question. Long Yunjian had already stood up, opened the door, and walked out. Apparently, he didn't want to answer any of Yi Qing Luo's questions. This Long Yunjian was really weird. Could it be that he called her to the class committee room just to return Mu Chi-Chi to her? His heart was full of questions, but he had to keep them bottled up in his heart. The feeling of not being able to swallow or spit them out was suffocating. Yi Qing Luo was unable to take part in Devil Class's training. After she came out of the class committee room, she went to Bai Ming Lulu's pharmacy to rest. It was until nighttime when Yi Qing Luo left the Devil Class. When he returned to the dormitory, the others were not there. It was rare that DMO Xian was not waiting for her in the dormitory. Yi Qing Luo simply didn't waste any more time. Lying on the bed, she extracted her spiritual sense and entered the azure dew bracelet. Inside the azure dew bracelet, Old Man Song would be able to manifest his spiritual body and help her heal her injuries. This time, although the azure dew bracelet protected Yi Qing Luo's internal organs, but this body really couldn't withstand the pressure of the Earth profound stage. If she didn't recuperate properly, even if her internal injuries were healed, her body quality would deteriorate. Last Luo, remember to swallow the medicinal pills that Ghost Doctor gave you daily. Come back to the azure dew bracelet at night, and I will help you heal. I guarantee that by tomorrow or the day after, you will be alive and kicking. Old Man Song looked at the lass in front of him, who had her eyes closed as she circulated her qi to heal her injuries. Towards Yi Qing Luo being taken in by another sex alchemist, it would be a lie if Old Man Song said that he wasn't resigned. Chapter 373. A spiritual body, an artifact spirit which might disappear any time. How could it be compared to the living Ghost Doctor who had blood and flesh? Ghost Doctor was able to keep Yi Qing Luo, so Old Man Song's heart indeed gave birth to some reluctance. But from the bottom of his heart, he felt happy and proud for her. Not good. Lass Luo, quickly withdraw your spiritual consciousness. While he was recuperating, Old Man Song suddenly sensed something, and the palm which was on Yi Qing Luo's back, which was infusing spiritual qi, suddenly retracted. Almost at the same time, Yi Qing Luo, who was lying on the bed, opened her eyes. Right in front of her was a sharp blade glint, directly chopping down towards her head. Damn it! Why did someone want to assassinate her again? Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but roared in her heart as her body had already swiftly reacted. She had just turned sideways when she heard a ding sound. That blade had chopped onto the bed. Yi Qing Luo only felt the entire bed swaying. She flipped herself up and swiftly retreated. She then saw that in her room there were two burly and muscular men. Their entire bodies were wrapped up in black cloth, only revealing a pair of murderous eyes. And the window was already wide open, blowing in a gentle cold wind. The two killers had not expected Yi Qing Luo to suddenly wake up. On seeing that their assassination had failed, two palm winds suddenly struck towards Yi Qing Luo. Profound qi. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed, as her squinted eyes were suffused with a sliver of chilliness. These two killers actually dared to use profound chi in Heavenly Academy. Weren't they afraid that the profound chi detection equipment around the academy would sense them? Seeing Yi Qing Luo evading, the two burly men revealed a vicious look. Profound chi broke out of their bodies, raised their long blades, and charged forward. Every single blade, every single attack, was aimed at Yi Qing Luo's vital points. They were totally ruthless, trying to take away Yi Qing Luo's life. Damn it! Who had she offended today? Yi Qing Luo panted heavily, acutely sensing that these two killers were absolutely not Heavenly Academy students. Nor were they playing a prank. Judging from their combat prowess, they were definitely experienced killers who often committed murder, arson, and seduction. Although Yi Qing Luo had suffered internal injuries, but her body's instinctive reaction was still there. With a few flashes, she quickly dodged the assassin's attack. With a cold expression, she flipped her fingers and a feather fan appeared in her hand. If these people were really professional killers, he could use his profound chi, but she couldn't. Moreover, she, who was suffering from internal injuries, could not summon the strength to release her profound energy. Right now, the only thing she could do was to stall the two of them until the academy sensed that there was an abnormal fluctuation of profound chi in her dormitory and brought people over. Surrender obediently. Do you still want to wait for that kid who's protecting you in the dark to save you? The burly man laughed coldly in a hoarse voice. I'm afraid he's already dead. I'll fulfill your wish today. I'll let you two be a pair of wild mandarin ducks. As he spoke, the burly man's long saber slashed down. Protecting the kid in the dark? Wind? A foam was discovered by them? Yi Qing Luo knitted her brows tightly as she expressed some doubts towards the strong man's words. Although she had not seen Wind displaying his full strength, but Wind was able to stay by Dmo Xian's side and become one of his 5 great guardians, which was enough to prove his ability. In the Heavenly Academy, there was probably no one who was Wind's opponent. Otherwise, Dmo Xian would not specially let Wind hide in the dark to protect Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed. She couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with these killers. Her feet moved lightly, and the feather fan in her hand drew a flirtatious arc in the dark night sky. She couldn't use her profound chi. However, her own footwork and her teleportation secret technique were not weak at all. Chapter 374. After exchanging blows, these two killers became more and more serious. They didn't expect that a freshman would have such keen senses and reactions. It was as if he was born to fight. She didn't unleash any profound chi. She only used that red feather fan in her hand to attack them like a dagger. Every move, every style was direct and decisive without any hesitation. While avoiding their vital points, she was able to swiftly counterattack. This indeed made those killers who had belittled Yi Qing Luo to look at her in a different light. Yi Qing Luo was extremely glad that she had taken Ghost Doctor's medicinal pills, and in the azure dew bracelet, Old Man Song had injected his spiritual chi into her to nourish her body, so that now her injuries weren't so painful that she wanted to die. The more serious the two killers became, the more vicious they became. Yi Qing Luo's room had already been overturned by the powerful, profound chi, as it was scattered messily on the ground. The entire wooden board of the bed was smashed onto the ground with a pitter-patter. Such a huge commotion. How could the surrounding students not discover it? Such a powerful, profound chi fluctuation. How could the academy not detect it? But she had been exchanging blows with these two killers for at least a quarter of an hour, and not even a shadow was seen. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as her vision looked towards that opened window. A thought arose in her mind, and Yi Qing Luo's feet moved as she speedily scurried up the window. Her figure was petite, and with a slight bend, she had already flashed out of the dormitory. Following closely behind were the two killers, as they dashed towards the window at the same time. For the two of them with strong physiques, it would take some time for one of them to climb through that window. Moreover, the two of them were pouncing up at the same time. Instantly, they were stuck on the window, unable to move. Seeing Yi Qing Luo scurrying out of the window, her agile body scuttling nimbly along the roadside, their hearts got more anxious, as their struggles became even more ferocious. Outside Yi Qing Luo's window was the female dormitory's rear floor. Usually there would be at least 3 to 5 people walking around, but at this moment, as far as the eye could see, there wasn't a single figure in sight. As expected, her dormitory was set up with an enchantment. Just like every time DMO Xian returned to her room, he would set up an enchantment beforehand. Once one was within the enchantment, one would be completely cut off from the outside world. No matter what they did in the enchantment, such as releasing profound qi, the outside world would not be able to sense it. This also meant that these 2 assassins had long planned to assassinate her. No response from the heavens and earth. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she swept a glance at the 2 killers who were still stuck at the window, gave a cold laugh, and retracted her vision. The most important thing now was to find the person who set up the barrier and break it. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes scanned the surroundings sharply. The range of this barrier should be the room she lived in. In other words, it was very likely that the person who released the barrier was hiding nearby. From all directions, another 2 figures suddenly appeared, brandishing the long swords in their hands as they dashed towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. That momentum and speed were extremely fast. Compared to the 2 assassins from before, they paled in comparison. The 2 assassins came at him menacingly, their long sabers slashing down with unerring accuracy. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes and quickly retreated a few steps back. Soon after, the feather fan in her hand opened and closed, leaving behind dazzling afterimages. It seemed like a flashy move, but every strike and every opening and closing were aimed at the assassin's vitals. Chapter 375. Who on earth sent these killers over? When she saw the 2 killers trying to assassinate her, Yi Qing Luo thought that her actions in the academy had made some students unhappy, so she spent some money to hire these killers. Just like Shangguan Liuli previously, but she jumped out of the window and was sealed in the array barrier. There were 2 more powerful killers lying in ambush outside, and she didn't know how many more people were hidden in the surroundings. This kind of behavior was absolutely not what a student would do. But Yi Qing Luo suddenly recalled the conversation that she had heard in the library pavilion in the morning. Could it be they had sent people over? She was punished by the instructors to clean up the 2nd story of the library pavilion, and this matter would definitely spread like wildfire. To be able to freely enter and exit the Heavenly Academy, those 2 people were absolutely the higher management figures in the academy. Naturally, the news of her being in the library pavilion's 2nd story would also spread to their ears. The secret that those people were talking about was obviously a huge plan. Because of this, no matter if Yi Qing Luo had heard that conversation or not, as long as she appeared in the library pavilion's 2nd story at that time, she would die. If it was really the killers sent by those 2 people, Yi Qing Luo didn't dare to think any further. Bam! The ground cracked open as pieces of gravel flew in all directions. Once again, the 2 assassins missed. The 2 assassins who had been stuck on the window finally got over and immediately followed up. Enemies for professional killers. On their side, a frail willow lady who had yet to recover from her internal injury and was unable to circulate her profound qi. This comparison to be able to turn the tables. That would really be seeing a ghost. Ah, not far from the female dormitory, on top of a tall building, a man dressed in a purple robe stood with his hands behind his back. His purple robe fluttered, as though he had the bearing of a deity. Just by standing there, his entire body gave off an extremely majestic pressure. That pair of narrow peach blossom eyes were pitch black as it stared at Yi Qing Luo's dormitory without blinking. Amidst the flowing light, was a bundle of expression which couldn't be seen through. A black figure swiftly flashed, and in a blink of an eye, knelt down in front of the man. "Overlord, I'm useless, and didn't manage to protect Miss Yi properly." Ah Feng lowered his head expressionlessly. If those people hadn't used the tactic of luring the tiger away from the mountain and tricked him into leaving first, they wouldn't have had the opportunity to set up the barrier. In DMO Xian's pitch-black pupils, sometimes a storm was blowing, sometimes it was as if it was dyed with ink, so calm that it made one flustered. Ah Feng couldn't bear the pressure and bent down a little more. "Di Zun, I'm going to break the barrier." With that, the young man immediately stood up, straightened his back, gripped his sword tightly, and turned to leave. "There's no need." Mo Xian replied indifferently, unable to tell whether he was happy or angry. His vision congealed in the direction of Yi Qing Luo's dormitory. Under his sleeves, his slender fingers clenched into a fist. He was suppressing his urge to raze the heavenly academy to the ground. He wanted to rush into the barrier and hold his woman in his arms so that she would not take any more risks. But after a long time, Mo Xian retracted his gaze. "It's coming." Ah Feng stopped in his tracks and turned around stiffly. Who was it referring to? Ah Feng followed Mo Xian's gaze, and when his vision fell onto a figure, his usually expressionless mouth turned into an O shape. "Overlord, this." Mo Xian muttered to himself for a moment and seemed to have thought of something as his eyes were covered with a layer of faint warmth, which made the lines of his entire face become much gentler. Chapter 376. The four killers' attacks were extremely ferocious, as though they didn't want to give Yi Qing Luo any chance to complicate matters. This time round, the four of them attacked in unison. The long saber swept out streaks of sharp and dazzling brilliance. The strong airflow lifted up everything on the ground as it danced in midair. Those streaks of strong qi made Yi Qing Luo feel as though her body was floating, as though she was about to be swept up by this gale. There was no way he could hide from it. Yi Qing Luo had tried to circulate the profound qi in her profound jade heart several times, but after taking the medicinal pill that Ghost Doctor gave her, her profound jade heart had been nourished by the medicinal effects, forming a nurturing mode. Forcefully circulating, it would only cause a backlash from her profound jade heart. Now, what should she do? The four killers were already impatient, as bursts of profound qi broke out from their bodies. That long saber formed an overbearing array, trapping Yi Qing Luo within it. Yi Qing Luo's expression sunk slightly as her footwork stabilized, as she speedily took in a deep breath. Her feet moved like the wind, as that set of strange footwork changed rapidly. In a blink of an eye, the little girl in the array had disappeared without a trace. "I don't believe that you, this lass, can resist. To what extent?" A glint shot out from the killer's eyes. The few of them became even more serious. Yi Qing Luo's speed and acuity had exceeded their expectations. She obviously didn't utilize any profound qi, but she was able to see through their attacks in a blink of an eye and make the clearest evasive or counterattack. This kind of lass, if she was properly nurtured in future, she would definitely become a fearsome figure. But alas, this lass had offended someone whom she shouldn't have offended. The future strong exponent was going to die under their sabers today, no matter how fast her speed was. So what? She was ultimately a young lass who couldn't utilize her profound qi. Her stamina would eventually be depleted. "Lass, if you listen to us obediently, we can still let you die a quick death." The killer condensed profound qi as he followed the tip of the saber as he slashed downwards. Yi Qing Luo spat as she did a somersault in midair, as she raised her leg and gave a horizontal kick. That killer who raised his saber had originally released his profound jade heart, circulating his profound qi, but before his saber could slash downwards, his chest suddenly felt an intense pain. His profound qi was in a mess as the long saber left his hand. He was sent flying backward. The other three killers totally didn't see when Yi Qing Luo made her move. At this moment, a sense of vigilance surged in his heart. After Yi Qing Luo sent that killer flying, she didn't stop. Her calculations were extremely accurate. When that assassin was circulating his profound qi would definitely be in a mess after being kicked by her. The assassin would not be able to get up in a short period of time. There were 3 left. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she gripped the feather fan in her hands tightly. While the 3 of them were still in a daze, she flipped the feather fan on her fingertips. Like a bewitching red light darted out. When those 3 killers saw that one of them was destroyed, they were already on guard against Yi Qing Luo. The minute Yi Qing Luo moved, the 3 of them speedily followed suit. They were all experienced assassins and had done a lot of such shady business. He quickly adjusted his state. Their common goal was to block Yi Qing Luo's speed and take her down in one fell swoop. The trio's eyes were vicious and under their coordination. They trapped Yi Qing Luo completely. One of them locked onto Yi Qing Luo's movements. One attacked her vital points, and the last person surrounded Yi Qing Luo's movements. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. They were indeed trained professional killers. They had thought of a way to restrain her so quickly. Chapter 377. What the? This move was just too sinister. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were pierced so much that she shut her eyes. But the minute she shut her eyes, Yi Qing Luo's heart cried out in alarm. Indeed, at the same time when she shut her eyes, the surrounding profound qi became even more violent as it shot out an intense, murderous intent. Yi Qing Luo's heart turned cold as she wanted to open her eyes, but that ray shot directly towards her, and it was simply too glaring. She could only wave the feather fan in her hand and rely on her sensitive ears and perceptive power to avoid the incoming long knife. Suddenly, a miserable shriek was heard beside her ear. Following that, a burst of powerful energy which could destroy the heaven and earth instantly eroded the entire enchantment barrier. Who was it this time? Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled as she endured the piercing pain in her eyes and opened her eyes. When she saw the scene in front of her, Yi Qing Luo was completely stunned. A long dragon was spiraling in front of her eyes. That's right, it was a dragon. It was so huge that one could only land on it after coiled up into several circles. And right now, she was spiraling in the middle of this dragon. The blue dragon scales were like iron armor as it gave off a clear glow. Having lived for 2 lifetimes, what kind of storm had Yi Qing Luo not seen before? But the current Yi Qing Luo was stunned. A dragon, a living dragon, was right in front of her eyes. That huge dragon had fiercely knocked onto those few killers. It was apparently the first time for those killers to see a living creature like a dragon as they were sent flying by that dragon head. Only, the dragon's strength was obviously different from Yi Qing Luo's. Yi Qing Luo's kick sent them flying would at most cause them to faint for a period of time. But this dragon's collision sent those killers flying one by one as they crashed heavily onto the wall and instantly turned into a meat patty. Their internal organs had all seeped out and completely turned into a pile of minced meat. After that blue dragon finished dealing with the remaining 3 killers, it raised its head and let out a dragon's roar. That dragon roar caused the pitch-black sky to suddenly explode, accompanied by a huge roar of thunder and lightning. Bolts of lightning seemed to split open a hole in the horizon, and that blue dragon, which was originally spiraling around Yi Qing Luo, speedily dashed into the clouds. The dragon's body flipped as it howled. Within a radius of thousands of miles from the Heavenly Academy, all the magical beasts and mirage beasts responded to the dragon's roar. That blue huge dragon circled several rounds in the sky, and its huge dragon head stared straight at Yi Qing Luo. That pair of azure blue watery eyes made Yi Qing Luo dazzlingly stunned once again. Blue eyes. That gaze. How could Yi Qing Luo not recognize it? The giant blue dragon, stared at her for a few seconds. With a flick of its tail, it disappeared in the blink of an eye. The turbulent sky once again returned to its previous tranquility. Let's go take a look. What happened in the girls' dormitory? Following the elder's stern voice, numerous footsteps could be heard. Yi Qing Luo knew that the enchantment had been dispelled. Obviously, the people from the academy had noticed the commotion in the dormitory. That giant blue dragon just now was too eye-catching. Yi Qing Luo didn't even think as she immediately shut her eyes and fell onto the ground. The sound of orderly footsteps rang in his ears, and he could vaguely hear the voices of the students discussing. What was that just now? The sun is so bright. Why would there suddenly be thunder and lightning? Didn't you see it? I seem to have heard a dragon's roar. Dragon's roar? Dragon's roar? Is there something wrong with your brain? Dragon, to anyone in the Nirvana realm, was a supreme existence. Even the number 1 strong DMO Xian only had a 9-tailed fox sacred beast. Everyone had heard of legends regarding dragons in books, but had never seen a real dragon, not to mention hearing a dragon's roar. What dragon's roar? Chapter 378. Yun Xiang led a team of guards and rushed over, only to see the entire female dormitory's backyard. The ground had already cracked. Especially Yi Qing Luo's dormitory. More than half of it was destroyed. There were 3 corpses lying on the ground which had turned into meat patties. At the corner of the other end, there was another corpse which could more or less be seen clearly. Looking at the outfit, it was obviously a killer without a doubt. Yun Xiang's expression congealed as he sternly ordered the guards to carry these corpses away. He was feeling vexed. Usually there weren't so many things happening in the academy. On the contrary, ever since Yun Duan came back, there were so many things which he had no way to settle. If this were to spread to Yun Duan's ears, he would definitely blame him for not knowing how to manage the academy and revoke his position as an elder. That would be terrible. Yun Xiang's heart was burning with anxiety, his sinister eyes sweeping the surroundings. Suddenly, he saw Yi Qing Luo lying on the ground, and the hostility in his eyes intensified. It was this new student again. Yun Xiang's eyes widened as he couldn't wait to tear Yi Qing Luo into pieces. Every single time, as long as he was related to this new student, nothing good would come out of it. From the beginning of the class allocation, he was humiliated by the 2 instructors in public. Following that, Lu Shuiyu's matter caused him to lose Yun Duan's trust. Then to the heavenly training forest. According to Yi Qing Qian, that intruder was most likely Yi Qing Luo. And now, everything seemed to be related to Yi Qing Luo. Yun Xiang's eyes shot out a strong murderous intent. Yi Qing Luo, who was pretending to be unconscious, naturally felt this murderous intent as her heart trembled slightly. Her sharp ears heard Yun Xiang's footsteps, and Yi Qing Luo was thinking if she should pretend to be awake. She heard a student saying, "Elder Yun Xiang, the director sent a message to bring student Yi to the director's office for questioning." The footsteps stopped abruptly. The approaching murderous intent gradually subsided. Following that, Yi Qing Luo's collar was lifted and someone took a wooden frame and carried her to the director's office. Director's office. Yi Qing Luo laid quietly on the ground, maintaining the frequency of her breathing. Yun Xiang also followed over with an extremely ugly expression. "Director, this new student is simply a troublemaker. Ever since she came to the academy, things have been happening one after another." For a long time, he did not hear the dean's response. The entire dean's office fell into a strange silence. After saying that, Yun Xiang froze on the spot, not daring to speak again. Then, the sound of the headmaster lightly knocking on the table broke the silence. "How are the freshmen?" This deep and resounding voice was filled with a dignified dignity without being angry. He seemed to be concerned about his new body. But when this voice entered Yi Qing Luo's ears, it made her entire body turn icy cold. This voice wasn't the bootlicking voice she had heard on the second floor of the library pavilion. She knew it. That voice sounded so familiar. She had definitely heard it before. Momentarily, Yi-Ching Luo didn't even think of the director at all. But upon hearing the director's voice, Yi-Ching Luo was almost certain that the person who was discussing plans with the self-proclaimed guardian in the library pavilion in the morning was the director. She was also very sure that the reason why these assassins came to find her today was definitely because of this dean. The barrier had just been broken, and even Elder Yun Xiang was present, but he could not see that she was related to this chaos. Whereas the director, who had always been indifferent to the outside world, could actually send a student to summon her to the director's office at the first instance to question her. No wonder. Heavenly Academy, which was hailed as the best academy, had several experienced killers infiltrated in.